Hello guys, it's been a long time since we saw the adventures of Kanghyuk and Rice Cake in two different worlds. Kanghyuk used to be a young and talented chef who lost his sense of taste because of too much stress and retired to his grandpa's village house, which surprisingly turned out to be a gateway to another world. In that world, Kanghyuk met a wolf puppy whom he named Rice Cake and decided to adopt because the puppy could accurately judge how good was the food anyone cooked. Eventually, Kanghyuk made friends with the human knight captain Randolph, the beastman, and the elf ranger Amelia, while helping to forge trade relations between the different races with the power of delicious food. His sense of taste began to return, and at the same time, he became more and more involved with the villagers who started seeing him as a family. Kanghyuk then got a spirit hamster named Tori as his familiar after Amelia helped him, and later he met the parents of Rice Cake, who blessed him for taking care of their fussy child. Over the course of time, Kanghyuk grew as a chef and a person, becoming more cheerful and friendly towards everyone, and enjoying his peaceful life in the village away from the chaos of the city. One usual day, Kanghyuk cleans the house with Tori and Rice Cake, as he has not cleaned properly since he started living here, and the place feels neglected. While cleaning, he suddenly finds his grandpa's scrapbook. Inside it are newspaper cuttings of articles that his grandfather has carefully saved ever since Kanghyuk was young. The scrapbook pulls him back into his painful past, and he remembers the time when people constantly judged and criticized him, leaving him mentally cornered. The pressure had grown so heavy that stress made him lose his sense of taste, and for a chef, it felt like a fatal wound. During those days, Kanghyuk had wanted to give up on everything. Trying to escape that pain, he had come to the countryside, and by chance, he once entered his grandpa's shed, where he discovered a hidden portal to another world. In that new world, he met so many people and slowly formed deep bonds with them. He remembers meeting Rice Cake, who could taste food for him, and with Rice Cake's help, Kanghyuk regained confidence in his cooking. In that world, he helped people through his food, built meaningful relationships, and eventually recovered his lost sense of taste. The emotions he feels now are too deep to put into words. While lost in these thoughts, Kanghyuk steps out of the room and notices Tori lying on the ground. Tori's stomach is swollen like a football because, while helping pull weeds from the garden, he has eaten them all. Kanghyuk gently lifts him up in his hands and begins thinking about snacks. Soon he starts roasting sweet potatoes for himself and for his two little friends who worked hard with him. He picks one up and cuts it in half, while Rice Cake and Tori keep staring at it with greed. As they wait, Kanghyuk starts talking about his childhood when his grandpa used to make sweet potatoes for him whenever he came to visit. No matter how full he was, Kanghyuk always enjoyed eating them until the very last bite. After letting the sweet potatoes cool, Kanghyuk shares them with Tori and Rice Cake. He also makes a few more dishes out of those sweet potatoes and serves them. While doing so, he notices that his little friends are covered in ash and his hands are black as well. Soon, the three of them start playing, smearing soot on each other's faces and laughing freely. As the laughter fades, Kanghyuk starts wondering if his grandpa knew the secret of the shed and if he had ever visited the world beyond it. He remembers his grandfather's gentle words from childhood, telling him to visit whenever he felt tired or had a bad day. Kanghyuk silently thanks him for creating such a warm and safe place, one that saved him from the chaos of the world. Later, Kanghyuk goes to the fantasy world to enjoy a peaceful afternoon nap under the soft sunlight, while Rice Cake and Tori play nearby. Suddenly, they notice someone hiding and watching Kanghyuk from a distance. They quickly run into the bushes, and moments later, Kanghyuk hears a girl's scream from inside the bushes. He quickly gets up and runs toward the sound, but as he reaches the spot, a strange feeling of déjà vu slowly washes over him. It feels like the same moment from earlier, back when he first met Amelia. The girl starts freaking out for falling down so easily from a tree, but the moment she notices Kanghyuk, she quickly gets back on her feet. Kanghyuk wonders if she might be some kind of elf like Amelia, and he apologizes for startling her, but when he offers to treat her wounds, the girl suddenly snaps back at him and screams in anger, stating that she does not trust him at all. She starts accusing Kanghyun of pretending to be kind so that he can make her lower her guard and steal information about the elf tribe. She warns him that even if he managed to fool her older sister Emilia, she will not fall for the same trick. Before Kanghyun can respond, she summons her green owl, Sophie, and disappears in a swirl of green dust. Kanghyun stands there in confusion, replaying her words and wondering who that elf girl was. Later, Emilia apologizes for everything and tells Kanghyun that the girl was her little sister Aura, who, like many others in her village, has never stepped outside and is extremely cautious of other races. Emilia also mentions the coming-of-age ceremony that is approaching, and Aura is one of the candidates in that. Emilia then tells Kanghyun that although the festival is meant only for elves, she wants to invite him this time. Just as Kanghyun is about to accept, Noah steps in and insists that he and Mona should come along as well, claiming that Kanghyun might need protection if something goes wrong. Emilia is clearly not happy about the idea, but she agrees to ask the elders for permission first. Meanwhile, Kanghyun cannot stop thinking about Aura, and even though he wants to see the elf village, he wonders if his presence at the festival will further upset Aura. The Grand Elder eventually gives permission for Noah and Mona to attend the festival along with Kanghyun. Emilia reluctantly begins leading them toward her village through a thick and dense forest. As they walk, Kanghyun notices that almost no sunlight reaches the ground because of the heavy canopy above. Strange, mystical creatures quietly watch them from every direction, and Mona starts panicking the moment she notices them. Emilia calmly explains that the forest is purposefully designed this way, as it creates fear and confusion to keep outsiders from entering easily and harming the land. She further adds that the forest is also home to many rare plants and creatures that are not found anywhere else. As they move forward, Kanghyun spots a small, adorable puppy staring at him. Without thinking much, he steps closer, only to watch the puppy suddenly open its massive jaws to swallow him whole. Emilia yanks Kanghyun back just in time and firmly reminds him that harmless looking does not mean that they are safe in this forest. They continue deeper into the woods, where the surroundings grow even darker. After a while, Emilia stops and announces that they have reached the village. She summons a glowing butterfly into her palm, and soon, shimmering spirits begin floating around them like bubbles in the air. Emilia explains that this is the outer edge of the village, a place where even those without natural affinity can see the spirits clearly. She then opens a portal leading into the village. As Kanghyun looks through it and sees the elf village standing before him, he can hardly believe his eyes. Emilia guides her guests through the village, while Aura keeps watching them from a distance. She is clearly displeased to see the outsiders walking through her home. Emilia takes them to meet the chief elder of the village, who warmly welcomes them as they arrive. Noah steps forward first and presents a gift of worms from the Melton Mountains, sent by his tribal chief, Cassandra. The worms wiggle the moment the basket opens, and Kanghyun stiffens in fear at the sight. Trying not to react too strongly, he quickly offers his own gift from a distance and presents rose seeds to the elder, remembering Emilia once mentioning that elves enjoy growing flowers. The village elder looks genuinely surprised, as he has never seen roses before. The idea of a common flower like a rose being unknown to the elves catches Kanghyun off guard as well. As there is still time left for the ceremony to begin, the elder suggests the group take a walk around the village and enjoy the festival in the meantime. Kanghyun has never seen an elf festival before, and Emilia explains that the celebration is meant for children who are about to come of age. An excited Kanghyun turns to Noah and asks from where they should start, but Noah shrugs, stating that everything works fine for him. Suddenly, he notices Mona quietly trying to slip away into the crowd. He grabs her just in time and warns her to behave unless she wants to face her mother's wrath later. Mona immediately straightens up and starts behaving obediently. Emilia suggests starting from the front of the fair, and soon the group begins exploring together, slowly getting pulled into the lively atmosphere. After spending a long time enjoying the festival, they finally take a break, and the kids are clearly starving by now. Emilia orders caule fries, made from a plant called caule that grows only in the elf forest. She explains to Kanghyun that while the plant tastes good even when eaten raw, it becomes much better after cooking. When the fries arrive, Kanghyun notices that they look a lot like fried asparagus. But the moment he takes a bite, the food stretches like melted cheese. Emilia explains that caule melts at high temperatures, becoming crunchy on the outside and soft inside, which is why it is a traditional elf dish. Kanghyun thinks the fries are like cheese sticks, but with a cleaner and lighter flavor. Emilia asks him if he does not like it, and Kanghyun replies that it is good, but then casually asks if they usually eat it with anything on the side. Emilia tells him that elves normally eat curly fries alone, as they are flavorful enough, so they don't need any dip alongside them. Kanghyun, however, suggests trying them with a sauce for a change, and with that, he pulls out a small pouch of sauces he has brought along. Elsewhere in the village, Aura searches for Kanghyun and soon spots him surrounded by a crowd. To her surprise, Kanghyun is drawing attention as he prepares different dips and shares them with the elves. The elves keep asking Kanghyun about the sauce, and he explains that it's Worcestershire sauce, which even he doesn't know how to pronounce. He says that it is a fermented sauce with spices that pairs perfectly with fried food. Everyone is excited to try something completely new, while Aura stares at him in shock, clearly not expecting a human to become so popular among the elves. Meanwhile, Kanghyun is enjoying himself, making the dip for everyone. Earlier, when he shared it with his friends, the dip had caught the attention of other elves, and soon everyone wanted a taste. He had just mixed soy sauce and sesame oil in the right ratio with minced garlic, red pepper powder, and scallion seeds. While this was a common snack in his world, the elves had never tried anything like it before. Kanghyun is soon surrounded by a crowd of curious elves, which Noah notices is getting dangerous. He nudges Kanghyun out for his safety, while his friends step in to handle the excited crowd. Kanghyun wanders nearby and eventually comes across Aura. She glares at him and asks how he knows her name. Kanghyun calmly replies that her sister Emilia has already told him. Aura thinks for a while and tells him that it might be because she likes him. Then her expression hardens, and she warns him again to leave the village before the ceremony starts, claiming that she's seen him roaming with the beastmen, whom she considers dangerous. Kanghyun tries to talk with her, suggesting that they should become friends, but Aura is in no mood to do that. She tells him that if he hadn't interfered, she would have been the one enjoying the festival with Emilia instead of him. She is frustrated that Emilia is paying more attention to Kanghyun than to her, even though it's her coming-of-age ceremony. Seeing her upset, Kanghyun apologizes sincerely. He tells her he never intended to ruin her day, and that he wouldn't have come if he had known it would upset her. Aura is stunned, as she never thought a human, who are usually selfish and self-centered, would ever apologize to her. Kanghyun continues gently, explaining that Emilia cares about her more than about him. He tells her that Emilia sees her as a gifted elf, someone truly fit to become the next patrol leader, and that she wanted her to meet humans to broaden her perspective. Aura grows emotional and runs off, leaving Kanghyun wondering if she really hates him. Soon, Emilia calls out to Kanghyun, urging him to hurry, as the coming-of-age ceremony is about to begin and she wants to cheer for her sister from the front row. The ceremony starts and the children showcase their talents. Aura performs her magic beautifully, but her mind keeps drifting to Kanghyun. At first she thinks that he is tricking her again, but then she starts wondering if she is misunderstanding his intentions. Suddenly, when Aura is mid-air during her performance, she loses her balance and starts falling. Kanghyun quickly arrives at the podium with Tori to save her, but Aura is already rescued by another elf, and she hides her face in embarrassment. Later, after the festival ends, Aura sits gloomily on her bed, while Emilia and Kanghyun are there to cheer her up. Emilia tells her that the ceremony went well and asks her to not dwell much on her mistakes, as it will only make things worse. She asks Aura not to be embarrassed about what happened, but she starts panicking again. Aura admits that she feels ashamed to face Kanghyun because even though she treated him poorly, He never got angry and always behaved kindly. His behavior was something very unexpected, as she never imagined a human could act so nicely. Both Emilia and Kanghyun are surprised at her words, but Aura continues talking. She confesses that she felt lonely because her sister had been paying more attention to Kanghyun during her ceremony. Emilia realizes her mistake and hugs Aura tightly, apologizing for unintentionally hurting her. Aura, in turn, quickly apologizes for jumping to conclusions so quickly. Kanghyun smiles quietly at the sisters' reconciliation, and Emilia chuckles when Aura's stomach suddenly grumbles with hunger. Kanghyun volunteers to cook something nice for her, and soon the group gathers for lunch. He especially prepares banquet noodles for Aura, explaining that in his world, people eat noodles together to celebrate happy occasions. He tells her that he cooked it to celebrate her coming of age and encourages her to try it. Noah and Mona make slightly dubious faces at the meal, but the rest of the group eagerly digs in. The aroma of Kanghyun's cooking soon draws other elves, and since they've already heard of his signature dishes, the crowd quickly swarms him. Emilia steps forward to help, but Kanghyun is already prepared, having cooked plenty to feed everyone. As he reaches his stall, he notices Rice Cake burping contentedly near an empty dish, and it turns out that Rice Cake has eaten everything he had prepared. Kanghyun dives back into cooking again for the crowd, while Emilia suggests to Aura that they should enjoy the rest of the festival together. Aura's face lights up, and the two sisters head out together for their outing. Later, Kanghyun is asleep in his chambers when Aura quietly visits him to say goodbye. She tells him she is heading out to see the outer world, revealing that this journey is the final step of the coming-of-age tradition. Before leaving, she gives him a gift and explains that she has realized not all humans are like the ones in books, as some, like him, are good. Finally, Aura takes her leave and starts her journey with Sophie. Kanghyun opens the gift pouch and finds a strange almond-shaped seed inside, not knowing what to do with it. Kanghyun goes to Emilia and the village elder to ask about the seed, and Emilia tells him that it is a spirit tree seed, a rare gift given only to candidates of the coming-of-age ceremony. Kanghyun wonders why Aura gave him such a precious gift, and Emilia tells him to keep it, claiming that it could become very useful for Tori once it grows properly. The elder chuckles and states that he invited Kanghyun mainly to see what makes him special, which he now knows. He further adds that next time he will hear more about his story and asks him to visit again. Kanghyun happily agrees, and Noah states that he wants to come along too, to which the elder agrees, while Emilia makes an annoyed face. Back home, Kanghyun plants the seed in a pot but keeps wondering about it, since he has only grown succulents until now. He thinks about buying a book to learn how to care for it and feels excited to see it grow. Soon, Yoongun and her daughter Myung visit Kanghyun and bring some sticky rice for him. Shortly after, Grandma Park appears, hands him a bottle of sesame oil, and leaves again, leaving Kanghyun staring in surprise and wondering why he keeps receiving so much generosity. Then the village chief arrives, balancing a huge golden pumpkin on his head, and explains that he is just passing by to brag about his harvest. Kanghyun notices the pumpkin and thinks that he won't get it, but to his surprise, the elder hands it to him, and he wonders again why people keep being so generous to him. Rice Cake and Tori sit nearby, hoping Kanghyun will cook something nice for them, but they step back when he plunges his knife into the pumpkin. He decides to turn the gifts into something special, so he scoops out the seeds for Tori and chops the pumpkin to make a stew. Once it is ready, he carries it to his neighbors, with Rice Cake and Tori following excitedly. When he reveals the dishes, everyone sees that he has prepared pumpkin pancakes, pumpkin porridge, and sweet pumpkin rice punch. Grandma Park asks him to eat with them, and everyone enjoys the meal together. The village chief announces Kanghyun's dishes over a loudspeaker, inviting all the villagers to try them. Back at Kanghyun's house, the spirit tree seed finally sprouts into a tiny green shoot, pushing through the soil, hinting that something extraordinary is about to begin. Soon after that, the TV show judge, Hwang Dae-gil, arrives at the village in search of Kanghyun, but when he reaches his restaurant, he finds it closed. He tries calling him, but Kanghyun's cell phone lies on the dining table. A villager notices him and explains that the restaurant is closed today, and the chef he is looking for has gone to work on a farm. Hwang wonders if it is some kind of tactic, as the Kanghyuk he knew before never cared about anything except cooking. As he reaches the farm, he meets more villagers, who tell him that Kanghyuk has already left to play with the children. Hwang starts questioning himself, thinking he might be confusing Kanghyuk with someone else, because this is so unlike the person he knew. Everywhere he goes, he encounters examples of Kanghyuk helping others, showing a side of him he had never seen before. Hwang then heads to the supermarket, only for the kids there to redirect him to the village hall. They explain that Kanghyuk has volunteered to set up a TV for the elderly. One of the children asks if Hwang has come to take Kanghyuk back to Seoul. When he says no, the kid exclaims in delight. Finally, Hwang reaches the village hall and is greeted by the village chief, who tells him that Kanghyuk has already returned to his restaurant. The chief invites Hwang to have a drink, and Hwang notices the food competition airing on the television. The villagers explain that they set up the TV to watch Kanghyuk's cooking shows, and that they enjoy seeing him on screen. The chief adds that even though it is unusual to have a celebrity nearby, Kanghyuk has become like a member of their family. Suddenly, the show displays Judge Hwang Dae-gil on screen, and the chief freezes, staring blankly at him sitting right next to him. Meanwhile, Hwang begins to understand the reason behind Kanghyuk's recent change in behavior. He finally meets Kanghyuk at the restaurant, and Kanghyuk cannot believe his eyes seeing the superstar judge in front of him. Hwang mentions that even though Kanghyuk has been busier than before, he now understands why he has been performing so well in the contest. Kanghyuk wonders if the judge is teasing him, but Hwang explains that he wants to ask him something. Just then, Gi-hoon and his pianist friend enter the restaurant, and all three are surprised to see the other celebrities there. Kanghyuk quietly stands in the corner, waiting for Hwang's question. But instead of asking it immediately, Hwang decides to have his meal with the new company he has found. He tells Kanghyuk he will ask his question after eating and requests him to bring spaghetti carbonara for him. Kanghyuk is taken aback, as Hwang used to dislike that dish for being greasy, yet now he wants to try it. When Kanghyuk asks Hwang why he suddenly wants carbonara, Hwang gives him a look that clearly says he still does not like it. Kanghyuk grows even more confused, because if Hwang hates it, why he even is ordering it. Still, he does not question him further and starts cooking the meal. As he prepares the dish, he starts thinking about how Koreans often have divided opinions about carbonara. The authentic Italian version has a strong cheesy aroma, and not everyone enjoys that bold flavor. He remembers the day when Hwang declared him the winner of a round in the cooking contest. That day, Kanghyuk has questioned him how he could win when the judge does not even look satisfied while tasting it. Hwang has told him that he never liked Italian-style dishes because of their strong cheese smell. His statement offended Kanghyuk, and he began explaining what makes Italian cuisine special and why those flavors matter. At that time, his co-worker had quickly stopped him before he could say anything more disrespectful. Now, standing in his small village kitchen, Kanghyuk decides not to repeat the same mistake. He adjusts the recipe to match Hwang's taste. Instead of sticking to the traditional recipe and to soften its strong flavors, he even adds more garlic to balance the taste. When he serves the dish, Hwang immediately notices the cream in the carbonara. Kanghyuk explains that he has prepared it in a more American style, and as Hwang takes the first bite, his expression slowly changes. He asks whether Kanghyuk does not usually prefer to stick to the traditional Italian recipe. Kanghyuk replies that he used to think that way, but his views changed after he came to the village. He explains that although rules and tradition are important, satisfying the people who sit at his table is more important. After thinking quietly, Hwang continues eating and finishes the plate. He admits that the garlic improves the dish more than he expected and apologizes for acting rudely before. He then begins speaking about his Korean restaurant, explaining that he has always wanted to present traditional Korean cuisine to the world in its complete form. He talks about the many side dishes that must accompany a Korean meal and admits that these often lead to food waste because they no longer suit everyone's taste. His co-workers once suggested reducing the number of side dishes, but he ignored them at the time, believing that tradition should not be altered. Now, after hearing Kanghyun's words, he confesses that he realizes he has been too stubborn. Kanghyun starts to worry that he might have offended him again, but Hwang stands up calmly and states that he has heard the answer he came looking for. Just as he prepares to leave, pianist Lee Jong invites everyone to his house. When they arrive, Jong sits at the piano and begins playing a melody that sounds familiar to both Hwang and Kanghyun. After listening closely, Kanghyun realizes it is the pop idol song he once heard from a much famous pop group. Kanghyun tells everyone that the melody comes from the pop idol group Unis, from whom he first heard the song, but before he can continue, Jong changes the tune. When the music ends, Jong excitedly asks Hwang what he thinks about it, and Hwang admits that it sounds nice and refreshing. Jong explains that ever since he retired, he has been trying different things and rearranging classical music with band instruments. He shares that he has even turned idol songs into classical arrangements, even though he once spent his whole life trying to promote only pure classical music. Over time, he realized that audiences often prefer fusion over strict tradition. He says that he used to walk on a different path, firmly believing in it, until one day he noticed another path waiting for him, one that led him even further. Even now, when he looks back, he realizes that the path he walked in the past helped create the new directions available to him today. Because of that foundation, he now has more options whenever he wants to try something new. Jong advises Hwang not to take change too hard, assuring him that whatever he has built over the years is not going to collapse. He encourages him to enjoy this new beginning in his life. Listening carefully, Hwang realizes that Jong invited him not just to hear music, but to help him broaden his perspective about trying new things. He thanks Jong for his words, and Kanghyun notices that Hwang seems much more relaxed than before. Gi-hoon then asks Hwang to cook something for everyone, and Hwang readily agrees. Kanghyun decides to help him, and soon the two of them begin preparing dishes together. One by one, they place delicacies on the table for their hungry guests. While everyone enjoys the meal, Kanghyun and Hwang continue cooking, bringing out more food without stopping. The next day, Kanghyun wakes up still feeling full from the dinner party the night before. As he gets up, he suddenly remembers the seed he planted earlier and rushes to water it. When he reaches the room where the pot is kept, he sees Tori and Rice Cake staring closely at the plant. Kanghyun is stunned as the seed he planted just a day ago has already grown into a small tree, and it has even borne a fruit. He decides to ask Emilia about it. But before he can do anything, Tori quickly plucks the fruit and swallows it in one bite, while Kanghyun keeps staring at him in shock. Kanghyun quickly picks up Tori and brings him to the spirit realm, where Emilia begins examining him carefully. She checks for any visible change, but she does not find anything unusual. Even though Tori looks perfectly fine, yet Emilia finds the situation strange, as the fruit of the spirit tree is known to help spirits grow stronger and evolve in appearance. Since Tori has eaten the fruit, she expects some visible transformation, but nothing seems different. Sensing Kanghyun's confused expression, Emilia explains that when a spirit animal consumes the fruit, it usually becomes stronger and takes on a more advanced form, which is why she expected Tori to change as well. Even though his appearance remains the same, she believes his strength might have increased. To confirm it, they decide to test him and see whether his control over earth and fire has grown stronger, or if he has gained a new ability. However, despite trying several things, nothing noticeable happens, and Tori gets disappointed. Kanghyun gently comforts him, saying that he is simply relieved Tori does not fall sick after eating the fruit. He further adds that even if it was a missed chance to grow stronger, he is happier knowing Tori is healthy and safe. He reminds him that he is already amazing and that he helps him every time he cooks. Hearing this, Emilia suddenly gets an idea, and she excitedly suggests testing Tori's growth through cooking, since that is where it helps him the most. Kanghyun begins preparing a meal, and, during the process, asks Emilia whether it is truly safe to try this method. Emilia reassures him that since Tori usually uses his powers while helping him cook, working together will make it easier to sense any changes. As Kanghyuk gathers the ingredients, he realizes that he forgot to bring the Dutch oven and has only brought a regular pot. When Emilia asks what he means, Kanghyuk explains that a Dutch oven is a camping tool designed to cook food evenly, almost like a real oven. Since he plans to make roast chicken, which normally requires an oven, they will have to carefully control the moisture and heat inside the pot to recreate the same effect. He arranges the marinated chicken neatly inside the pot and begins thinking about how to manage the heat. At that moment, Tori seems to get an idea. Just as Kanghyuk finishes preparing everything and wonders how to maintain steady heat, he notices Tori focusing his power on the pot, heating it evenly from all sides. Soon, the rich aroma of roasted chicken fills the air, and the dish gets ready. Kanghyuk quickly lifts the lid and stares in disbelief because the chicken is perfectly cooked, with crisp golden skin on the outside and tender, juicy meat inside, just like it would be in a convection oven. Emilia excitedly declares that Tori has indeed grown stronger, but his growth matches Kanghyuk so naturally that no one notices it at first. When Kanghyuk looks puzzled, she explains that Tori likely wishes to become more helpful to him, so his power evolved in a way that directly supports Kanghyuk's cooking. Finally, the group sits down to eat. It is Emilia's first time tasting roasted chicken, and she finds it both delicious and slightly addictive. Kanghyuk explains that such flavor and texture are difficult to achieve through simple pan frying, which is why roast dishes are usually cooked in a convection oven. He then proudly praises Tori for developing an ability that works like a built-in oven. Tori beams with joy, while Emilia watches quietly, thinking that although she has heard of spirits evolving in harmony with their owner, the kind of evolution she sees in Tori is something entirely unheard of. Inspired by this discovery, Kanghyuk decides that from now on he will experiment with more oven-style dishes, especially since he now has Tori with his own built-in convection mode. Days pass, and winter slowly begins to settle over the village. One afternoon, Kanghyuk opens his door and finds 3 village kids standing outside with test papers in their hands. Their scores feel colder than the winter air itself. As he looks through their mark sheets, he wonders whether he should treat these results lightly, knowing that the things learned in childhood often become common sense for life. Sang-hoo admits that he forgets to study because he spends his time practicing new soccer moves with his friend Cheol-min. He tells Kanghyuk that he is scared that with such poor English marks, he may never get the chance to go to America. The other 2 are also afraid to show their papers to their parents, so Kanghyuk advises them not to lose hope so quickly. Miju taunts him that people like him can live fine even if they are not good at other languages, so Kanghyuk gently explains that language is important because people use it every day in real life. Seeing how serious the situation is, Kanghyuk asks if they want him to help them study. The 3 children immediately say yes. To them, he is someone who studied in America, lives in Seoul, and even appears on television. With hopeful eyes, they ask for his help, and Kanghyuk agrees. At first, he thought teaching elementary school lessons would be easy, but soon he realizes it is not that simple. Mi-young slowly falls asleep over her paper, Miju starts making an origami centaur with his worksheet, and Sang-hoo runs outside after noticing Rice Cake and Tori playing with his football. Kanghyuk tries to control the noise and bring everyone back to study when suddenly a car stops in front of his house. The children stare in surprise as a beautiful actress walks in, and it turns out to be Sina, Kanghyuk's friend. Kanghyuk asks how she managed to find him in such a small village, and Sina reminds him that she already made him reveal his location during Lee Jong's concert earlier. Kanghyuk jokes that maybe she has come to see Lee Jong instead, but Sina avoids answering. She soon notices the children and Kanghyuk introduces them to her, mentioning his struggles in teaching them, so without hesitation, Sina offers to help. Using her acting skills, she turns the lesson into something fun and starts explaining things in a dramatical way. Slowly, the children begin paying attention and start focusing on their studies. Kanghyun is impressed, and Sena explains that when she first started working in the entertainment industry, she did not get many acting roles. During that time, she took part-time jobs, including tutoring, and that experience is now helping her. Kanghyun couldn't believe her words, and Sena asks him to treat her with something nice since she has helped him in teaching the kids. Kanghyun notices the children staring at him with hungry eyes, their mouths almost watering as they sit around the table. Seeing their tired faces after studying, he decides to cook something nice for everyone. Meanwhile he cooks, Sena sits with the children and helps them understand their lessons. When the food is ready, Kanghyun brings the dishes to the table. The children cheer and begin eating with excitement, as if they have not seen food in days. Meanwhile, as Sena takes her first bite of spaghetti, she grows quiet. She tells Kanghyun that the taste reminds her of the old days when she used to follow Kanghyun around and eat for free at his restaurant. Kanghyun laughs and tells her that she really did eat a lot back then. Sena smiles and explains that after long hours of singing, eating his food always made her feel that her day was complete. Even now, thinking about those moments still makes her happy. Then her expression slowly changes. She tells Kanghyun that she left singing because of a problem with her throat, especially her vocal cord nodules. Kanghyun is shocked to hear this while Sena continues, explaining that her condition affected her performances. She tried many treatments and remedies, hoping her voice would fully recover, but it never returned the same way. Later, she discovered that she had a natural talent for acting, and over time, she accepted that her path had changed. She tells him that she no longer carries regret about leaving singing behind. After a short pause, Sena shares the real reason for which she has come to see him. She tells him that she has been offered a role in a new drama where she has to play a singer. It is a good opportunity and her agency's CEO wants her to accept it. However, her manager and the staff seem unsure and would rather not have her take the role. Now she feels stuck between two different opinions and wants Kanghyun to help her. Kanghyun listens quietly and then simply asks her whether she wants to do it. He tells her that in the end she should follow her own heart. Sena still looks uncertain, but before she can reply, the children gather around her with curious faces, and Sanghu proudly tells her that his grandmother is a big fan of hers. Kanghyun smiles and gently tells Sena that no matter what she decides, the choice is hers, and she has nothing to lose by trusting herself. As evening arrives, the children leave one by one. Sena also prepares to leave, admitting that she has visited him without informing anyone. Before getting into her car, she turns to Kanghyun and tells him that she used to think they are alike because they have faced similar struggles in life. She wanted to hear his thoughts, but now she realizes that this is not the time to depend on someone else's answer, as the decision must be her own. She tells him that she has decided to accept the role, and after saying goodbye, she drives away. Standing alone, Kanghyun reflects on how both of them once had to give up something they loved deeply. He looks at rice cake and remembers how he slowly healed from his own pain with its help, and even though he wants to help Sena more, he feels he cannot place another emotional burden on rice cake. Then a sudden thought crosses his mind, and he wonders if he has ever faced the same kind of dilemma before. As he stands there in silence, the image of Jong's broken wrist appears in his memory. When Jong broke his wrist in the past, Kanghyun had prepared a special meal for him, using a strong-smelling medicinal fruit that helped speed up his recovery. Kanghyun decides to do something similar for Sena, and brings the fruit again. Kanghyun looks at the fruit, and decides to turn it into a fruit syrup. He starts the preparation by soaking the fruit in lemon juice to reduce its strong odor. After that, he scrubs it thoroughly with baking soda, making sure the surface is clean. Then he slices it evenly, and mixes sugar into it. Finally, he places the slices into a glass jar along with pieces of ginger to further soften the smell and enhance its healing effect. After that, Kanghyun sends Sena a message, telling her that he has prepared a fruit syrup that is good for sore throats. He asks for her address, so Sena immediately shares her address without hesitation. When Kanghyun looks at the jars, he realizes he has made more than enough. He distributes the extra jars among the villagers, and soon, people begin talking about how energized they feel after drinking it. The syrup reaches Sina, and she pours herself a cup. Her throat starts feeling better than before, but she wonders if it is simply a placebo effect caused by her belief in his cooking. Meanwhile, in the spirit world, Randolph and Noah wait for Kanghyun, as it is time for him to appear for camping training. Emilia is standing nearby and asks why Kanghyun shows no interest in learning elven archery from her. Randolph quickly understands that Emilia feels left out because she has not taught Kanghyun anything herself. So to ease the situation, he tells her that Kanghyun may not have enough stamina left after intense martial arts training. Emilia then decides to teach him something that complements his existing skills. Soon, Kanghyun sits awkwardly in a neat circle with Noah, Mona, Rice Cake, Tori, and Emilia. In the middle of them are a few small cups and a large jug. He looks at Emilia and asks why she has made them sit like this. Emilia explains that she wants to return his kindness and has decided to teach him something special in return, which is the fairy tea party. Noah immediately questions her why Kanghyun should waste his time on tea parties when he is already undergoing intense strength training. Emilia is clearly irritated, and the two begin arguing, so Kanghyun steps in and volunteers to learn the skill. Emilia begins the lesson and tells Kanghyun that the most important part of a fairy tea party is harmony with the spirits. According to her, the taste of the tea changes depending on how one channels a spirit's mana into it. She summons her spirit bird, Sona, and gently presses her forehead against the bird's head. Through that contact, she communicates and synchronizes her mana with it. Emilia explains that the stronger the bond between spirit and summoner, the better the tea will taste. She even mentions that if Kanghyun manages to brew tea in harmony with Tori, the result could be exceptional. Then she tosses several flower buds into the air from her bag. With a soft glow, Sona releases mana, and the buds bloom instantly into fresh flowers while floating mid-air. Emilia explains that when the buds bloom like this, it means the mana is pure and stable. She slowly pours fresh water into the floating flowers and tells Kanghyun to wait until the color of the petals seeps into the water. Kanghyun watches closely as the clear water gradually turns pink. Once the color deepens, Emilia guides the liquid back into the teapot. Now it is Kanghyun's turn, and Emilia asks him to try the same process with Tori. Kanghyun carefully repeats the steps, but when Tori attempts to channel its power into the buds, the petals burn instantly into ashes. Emilia sighs and explains that since Tori is still young, it cannot fully control its strength yet. At that moment, Noah interrupts again and tells Kanghyun not to waste any more time brewing tea. Emilia, clearly offended, insists that they should at least taste the tea before judging it. She says they will understand its value only after experiencing it themselves. Kanghyun takes a careful sip, and the rich flavor of the tea surprises him. Meanwhile, Noah and Mona make doubtful faces, as if they cannot appreciate the taste at all. Kanghyun quietly suspects that perhaps beastmen are not used to brewed drinks like this. Wanting everyone to enjoy the moment, he asks Emilia whether they usually eat something along with the tea. Emilia denies it, so Kanghyun decides to prepare something sweet that can balance the tea's slight bitterness. Emilia quickly brings the ingredients, and using the flour, Kanghyun prepares sweet rice cakes for everyone. Emilia finds the nutty and chewy texture delightful, while Noah stuffs his mouth full and then quickly drinks the tea to swallow it down. At that moment, he finally understands how the slight bitterness of the tea clears away the lingering sweetness of the cake, leaving a refreshing aftertaste. As the day ends, Kanghyun returns to the Beastmen camp with Noah beside him and Mona asleep in his arms. Cassandra notices how comfortably Mona rests against him. Noah explains that Mona refused to let go of Kanghyun even in her sleep, and to avoid tearing his clothes while trying to separate them, they simply brought him along. Cassandra studies Kanghyun thoughtfully and tells him that there is something he is more suited for than anyone else. Then he asks him for a favor regarding his daughter. Cassandra tells Kanghyuk that Mona has recently become very picky with her food, and if a dish does not taste good to her, she refuses to eat it at all. The next morning, he shows Kanghyuk the situation personally, where the beastmen are asking for extra servings and finishing their meals quickly, while Mona sits quietly in front of her bowl and refuses to eat. Kanghyuk tastes the food and finds it perfectly fine, and that is when he understands that the problem is not the cooking but Mona's changing preferences. Cassandra explains that because of this habit, Mona has started skipping proper meals, especially when the same dish appears again after a few days. Kanghyuk knows that if this situation continues, her health may suffer, so he calls Haemin, the tribe's cook, and asks what she has been preparing lately. After checking the kitchen and listening to her explanation, Kanghyuk notices that, although the menu changes slightly, the ingredients as well as the recipes remain mostly the same, and because of that, many dishes taste similar even if they look different. He tells Cassandra that they need to introduce more variety into their meals, and for that to happen, Haemin needs to learn new recipes and cooking methods. Cassandra asks how he plans to make that possible, and Kanghyuk replies that he wants to visit a human town market, since it is the best place to explore new ingredients and spices. He explains that the spices they currently receive through trade are very basic. If they study the human market and expand their trade list, it will not only help with Mona's picky eating but also improve the village's food culture over time. Cassandra agrees that the idea is reasonable, but she is still concerned, as even though their relationship with humans has improved, they are not yet at a stage where they can freely visit each other's towns. If something goes wrong, it could harm the trust they have built and even break their relationship. Kanghyuk suggests asking Lord Roventus for official cooperation, as this plan could benefit both sides and strengthen their relationship. Cassandra seems to accept the idea, but before she gives a final answer, Haemin steps forward and asks for permission to accompany Kanghyuk to the human town market. She tells them that she wants to learn new recipes herself so she can better satisfy Mona's tastes and cook delicious meals. Cassandra agrees and asks Kanghyuk to act as a mediator by getting Lord Roventus's approval. She further declares that Haemin will go as the tribe's representative and then reminds her to hide her ears and tail carefully among humans. Noah also asks to join, but Cassandra refuses as his ears and tail are too noticeable. Mona insists on going with Kanghyuk, and after seeing her determination, Cassandra allows her to go as well. A few days later, Lord Roventus waits for Kanghyuk's arrival and instructs Randolph to take good care of him. Randolph understands that the Lord also has his own reason for helping Kanghyuk, because he wants his cook, Thomas, to learn new cooking skills from him. Randolph goes out to welcome Kanghyuk and the Beastkin, still surprised that such a day has come when they can enter a human town openly. As they enter the market, Kanghyuk cannot hide his excitement as he looks around at the lively stalls and the endless variety of goods on display, but he quickly notices that Haemin is reacting very differently. Instead of enjoying the atmosphere, she seems nervous and overwhelmed, worrying about whether she will properly fulfill her responsibility and learn everything she needs to improve her cooking. Meanwhile, Mona moves around with visible delight, eagerly stopping at different stalls and staring at the unfamiliar foods with curiosity. Kanghyuk gently tells Haemin that she does not need to treat this trip like a formal lesson. He explains that the real purpose of coming here is to experience new tastes, observe different methods, and allow inspiration to come naturally, because creativity in cooking grows from exposure and curiosity rather than pressure. His words help her calm down, and she agrees to focus on enjoying the experience instead of overthinking it. After that, the group continues exploring the market at a more relaxed pace, tasting various dishes and carefully observing how they are prepared. After walking for quite a while, they finally sit down to rest. Haemin speaks excitedly about the flavors she has discovered so far and admits that until now she has relied only on her own limited experience when cooking for the tribe. she tells them that seeing such a wide range of ingredients and techniques makes her realize how vast the culinary world truly is, and this realization awakens a strong desire in her to return and start experimenting immediately. Randolph lightly laughs and tells her not to rush, reminding her that she still has not visited the restaurant he has been recommending all day. He insists that before making any plans, she must try a popular meat dish called roaros, which he believes will leave a strong impression on her. When they arrive at the restaurant, they see large chunks of meat arranged along long skewers, roasting in a way that resembles kebabs. Randolph orders 5 servings without hesitation, and the owner soon brings the dishes to their table with clear pride. As they wait, Randolph explains that roaros is one of the restaurant's best sellers and that many merchants buy one every morning before starting their work. The dish consists of crisp bread filled generously with seasoned meat and fresh vegetables, creating a rich combination of flavors. When Kanghyuk takes a bite, he pauses thoughtfully, because although the ingredients and preparation differ slightly, the overall taste reminds him of a kebab. Impressed by its flavor, he signals Haemin to try it as well. She tastes it carefully, and her expression soon brightens as she begins praising the balanced blend of spices and textures that feel both bold and refined. Hearing her compliments, the owner proudly reveals that the distinctive taste comes from a special ingredient called bomong. Kanghyuk immediately realizes that bomong is quite similar to pepper, and he quietly wonders whether pepper is rare or expensive in this region. At the same time, Haemin continues thinking about the spice and how it might transform her own dishes. Later in the evening, after completing their shopping, Kanghyuk takes Haemin to a utensil shop before heading back. He knows that the beastfolk usually rely on simple tools, even though specialized utensils can greatly improve cooking results. Inside the shop, Haemin notices a pepper mill and asks him about it. Kanghyuk explains that it is a grinder used for crushing dried bomong to release its flavor more effectively. Haemin curiously asks him whether he has eaten bomong before. Kanghyuk looks surprised and asks if her people do not use it in cooking. She explains that because bomong has a very strong scent, they never considered it suitable as food and instead scattered it near storage areas to keep wild animals away. She also mentions that their village has many bomong trees growing nearby. When Kanghyuk hears this, he immediately remembers how valuable the same spice appears to be in the human market. Realizing the opportunity, he tells Haemin that bomong could become a resource that benefits both clans through trade and cooperation. With that idea forming clearly in his mind, he suggests that they create a new bomong-based dish together, turning an overlooked ingredient into something valuable for everyone. Back at the castle, Thomas is not happy to see Kanghyuk in his kitchen again, and that too with a beastkin. At the same time, he is curious to see what new dish Kanghyuk is preparing this time, so he keeps watching from nearby. Kanghyuk explains to Haemin that bomong goes well with meat because it covers the unpleasant smell and brings out the meat's natural flavor. He shows her the spice and teaches her how to use it with a pepper mill, explaining that grinding it this way makes it easier to use and store. He then seasons the pork belly with salt and ground bomong and lets it rest for some time. After it has aged, he sears the meat and then places it in the oven with additional spices and white wine to cook further. As the pork cooks, a pleasant aroma spreads through the kitchen. When the dish is almost ready, Thomas comes closer and notices the crispy texture of the skin. He asks Kanghyuk if the crispiness is because he removed the moisture from the surface before cooking. Kanghyuk agrees and explains that pork belly, because of its thick fat layer, becomes even crispier when prepared that way. Kanghyuk then cuts the meat and hands a piece to both Haemin and Thomas. As they taste it, their expressions change because they have never eaten pork like this before. Haemin realizes that bomong's aroma is not as overwhelming as she once thought, and that it actually increases the appetite. Thomas suddenly starts crying and asks Kanghyuk for the recipe, after which he quickly leaves the kitchen. Haemin tells Kanghyuk that until now she believed bomong was only a sharp and pungent spice, but now she understands its real taste. Kanghyuk replies that not only bomong, but other spices can also create new flavors if they are used differently. He explains that food can have richer flavors depending on the chef's imagination. Calling him her master, Heyman asks him to teach her again so she can try applying what she has learned herself. She tells him that she wants to adjust the flavors more to suit the children's tastes, and Kanghyuk decides to begin teaching her with some basic recipes. A few days later, in the beastman's village, Bomong, which was once considered a nuisance, becomes the village's most valuable trade item. With Heyman leading the effort, the chef's skills improve, and the tools brought from the human town market make cooking more convenient. Cassandra observes these changes and thinks that everything improved because of Mona's picky eating, which has now been completely fixed. However, the only side effect is that Mona has started demanding more food and has gained more weight than before. Cassandra decides to handle the matter herself and takes her daughter to the training grounds, much to her dismay. As winter begins to set in and Kanghyuk realizes he has no heater at home, he decides to borrow one from Minho, who owns an extra unit. He goes to Minho's house and finds Sang-hoo there as well. He gets curious and asks Sang-hoo what he is doing there, and Sang-hoo explains that his father has recently sent him a new two-wheeler bike, so before opening and using his own, he wants to learn how to ride properly. Kanghyuk recalls that Sang-hoo's father is working overseas to cover his mother's hospital expenses, and since the bike is a gift from him, Sang-hoo likely wants to take good care of it. Understanding this, Kanghyuk offers to help him learn, and they soon begin practicing together. As the day passes into evening, Sang-hoo continues struggling to balance and falls repeatedly while trying to ride. Kanghyuk suggests taking a break and continuing the next day, but Sang-hoo insists on practicing more because he wants to improve quickly. He explains that all his friends already know how to ride two-wheelers, and his father gave him this gift, believing he could ride well. He does not want to disappoint him and hopes to show his father, when he returns from overseas, that he can ride confidently on his own. Moved by his determination, Kanghyuk agrees to teach him a little longer. He tells Sang-hoo to keep his eyes focused ahead instead of looking down and reassures him that he will be there to catch him if he falls. After several more attempts, Sang-hoo finally manages to ride steadily by himself. In excitement, Kanghyuk lifts him into his arms to celebrate his success. Soon after, Sang-hoo's grandmother arrives to take him home for dinner and also invites Kanghyuk to join them for the meal as well. While Grandma prepares the side dishes for dinner, Sang-hoo assists her by arranging the table neatly, placing the bowls and utensils in their proper spots. Kanghyuk's attention is immediately drawn to the soybean paste stew, whose rich aroma spreads through the room and makes him hungry. When they sit down to eat, Kanghyuk notices that his bowl is already piled high with rice, which is almost a double portion. Sang-hoo serves him the stew, and as he begins eating, memories of his childhood come back to him, when soybean paste stew was frequently prepared at his home. He starts eating greedily while complimenting Grandma's cooking in his mind, thinking that the simple homemade flavor is something that cannot be imitated. Watching Grandma gently add more food to Sang-hoo's bowl reminds him of his own grandfather, who used to serve him in the same caring way. After the meal ends, Kanghyuk gets ready to leave. Grandma thanks him for helping Sang-hoo with his studies and mentions that he has been improving recently. She then asks about Kanghyuk's parents, who are living overseas. He replies that although he sometimes stays in contact with them, it has been quite a long time since he last saw them in person. As he walks back home, he quietly hopes that they are doing well. Meanwhile, his sister arrives in Korea after 10 years and makes her way toward the village to meet him. Tori and Rice Cake are playing outside when Sehyoon reaches her grandfather's house. The two animals notice her and approach curiously, sniffing her as she looks around in confusion, wondering why the building does not look like a restaurant at all. At that moment, Kanghyuk steps outside to bring his pets in and is shocked to see his sister standing at his door while playing with them. After they go inside and sit down, Sehyoon looks at Kanghyuk and remarks that he has become much shabbier since the last time she saw him. However, in her mind, she admits that he actually looks better than she expected. Kanghyuk, still surprised by her sudden appearance, asks what she is really doing here. since he knows she would not return to Korea just to visit him. Her eyes brighten at his curiosity, and she excitedly announces that she has secured a job in Korea at a 5-star restaurant. Kanghyun reacts with surprise and says that it seems she has truly become a pâtissier. Sehyun nods confidently and replies that she had to succeed because it has been her dream since childhood. Kanghyun feels that time has passed quickly, as it seems like only yesterday that his little sister was happily baking cookies beside him. Sehyun then explains that she still has some time before her official start date and adds that their mother has been wondering how he is doing, so she plans to stay with him for a while. As the day goes on, Sehyun begins to feel bored and points out that in 2 entire days not a single customer, or even a fly, has come by. Kanghyun reminds her that he had already told her how quiet it is, and she admits that she never imagined it would be this lifeless. Suddenly, she hears the door open and briefly assumes a customer has arrived, only to see an elderly woman who has come to give him some green onion kimchi. Watching this exchange, Sehyun realizes that her brother is being looked after warmly by the villagers and is more connected to them than she expected. By evening, Sehyun lies across the table with a rice cake in her hand, clearly bored and thinking about Kanghyun, who, in her opinion, has been letting his skills fade without realizing it. Just then, she smells something coming from the kitchen and notices that Kanghyun is cooking. She asks why he is preparing food when there are no customers, and he replies that he is testing and reviewing a recipe for his side work. As she watches him cook, she notices him smiling and wonders when he began smiling like that again. In the past, after he left to study abroad, he rarely smiled and often behaved coldly, which used to frighten her, even though his dedication to cooking never changed. She approaches him and eagerly asks what he is making. Kanghyun explains that the dish is called truffle chongyang cream tagliatelle, and adds that he has adjusted the original truffle tagliatelle recipe to better suit Korean tastes. As he continues cooking, Sehyun asks if she can use some of his ingredients, and he agrees without hesitation. While Kanghyun finishes his pasta, Sehyun begins preparing something of her own. Soon after, Sehyun presents him with a dessert and explains that it is persimmon crème brûlée, made from ripe persimmons. Kanghyun asks why she suddenly decided to make it, and she replies that she thought it would pair well with his pasta. When he tastes the dessert, he realizes she is right. The natural acidity of the persimmon balances the creaminess and even softens the heat from the chili in his dish, while still being sweet enough to stand on its own as a dessert. Sehyun smiles proudly, and as she tastes the pasta, she realizes that his skills have not faded at all. Seeing that he seems healthier and more at ease now, she begins to think that this might be the right moment to persuade him to return to Seoul with her. Kanghyun is washing the dishes when he notices Sehyun quietly staring at him. He asks what she wants because he knows that the expression on her face usually means she is planning something. Sehyun quickly replies that it is nothing, but in reality she is thinking of slowly persuading him to return to Seoul. She begins by saying that although she has looked around the village, she cannot find anything to do and feels bored. She complains that it is difficult to meet friends here and that there are no gaming cafes or movie theaters nearby, and further adds that life would be much better in Seoul. Kanghyun responds plainly that it might be, but he does not seem interested, since he neither watches movies nor plays games. Realizing that her first attempt has failed, Sehyun quietly prepares another way to convince him. As Kanghyun continues his chores, she asks whether he does not miss his life as a chef in Hanam-dong, when he was well known and popular. She exaggerates by saying that her friends used to beg her to introduce them to him and that people lined up just to see him cook. Kanghyun answers that he does remember, especially the times when customers forced their way into the kitchen and threatened not to pay unless he served them. He further adds that some even followed him after work and that his favorite knife was once stolen. As he recalls these unpleasant experiences, Sehyun realizes that her second attempt has also failed. For the moment, she decides to take a break as she has realized that trying to persuade him indirectly is not working, so she chooses to ask him directly. However, just as she is about to bring up the main issue, the spaghetti on her fork slips and falls onto Rice Cake's back, staining its white fur. She quickly apologizes and starts wiping it off in a panic. At that moment, Kanghyuk understands what she has been trying to say and asks if she means that they should go back to Seoul. Sehun carefully admits that she does and explains that she sees no reason for him to stay here anymore, since he seems to be doing well now. Kanghyuk firmly says that he is not going anywhere, and a shocked Sehun asks him back why he insists on staying in the countryside when he could live more comfortably in Seoul. Kanghyuk calmly replies by asking why he has to live like everyone else when he prefers living here. His answer frustrates her, and she suddenly snaps, accusing him of running away and wasting his skills in what she calls a rundown shop. However, as soon as the words leave her mouth, she realizes she has gone too far. Embarrassed by her outburst, Sehun runs out of the house, leaving Kanghyuk standing there in surprise. He understands that she is getting fired up as she has just started a new job and decides to speak with her again when she calms down. But as night falls, Sehun doesn't return, and although he keeps calling her, she does not answer her phone. Worried because she is unfamiliar with the village, he begins searching for her with Rice Cake and Tori. They search for some time without success, and Kanghyuk recalls how she used to run away like that in childhood whenever she was upset. Back then it was manageable because they were near home, but now the situation is different since she does not know the area well. Suddenly, Rice Cake signals in a certain direction, and as they follow, they find Sehun sitting quietly at Grandpa's house. Kanghyuk asks why she is sitting in the dark, and Sehun begins apologizing for her behavior while crying. Her expression reminds Kanghyuk of the childhood times when she used to apologize the same way after running off. He starts laughing gently, claiming that she has not changed since elementary school, which only makes Sehun more annoyed. As Sehun slowly calms down, Kanghyuk tells her that even if she thinks he looks pathetic, he is actually doing fine. She still feels guilty for speaking so harshly, but after a moment she admits that, to her, he has always been a rival who keeps running ahead. She explains that he used to be the competitor she wanted to surpass one day, and seeing him like this made her upset without clearly understanding why. She then apologizes again for her behavior. Kanghyuk then points to a small mark on the bench, reminding her that she made it when she was a child. The sight brings back old memories, and they recall the day their grandfather was cracking walnuts with a hammer for them. When he was not looking, Sehun tried to crack one herself, but the walnut slipped from her hand and hit Grandpa on the head while the hammer struck the floor instead. They also remember another day when a chicken escaped from the coop and Sehun hid nervously until Grandpa finally caught it. Thinking about those incidents, Sehun begins to laugh. Kanghyuk remarks that time has passed quickly since the days when his little sister used to nag him constantly. He tells her that he is proud of her and understands that she spoke out of concern for him. He assures her that he truly enjoys his life now and feels that he can see a wider world than before, when he was only chasing success. He asks her not to worry too much and to trust him for a little longer, explaining that he is walking his own path at his own pace and that there is more to his life here than it seems. Although he is also thinking about the spirit world, Sehun cannot fully understand what he means. Still, since it is the first time he has spoken so hopefully, she decides to trust him. The next day, the village chief visits Kanghyuk to deliver kimchi that he and the others have prepared. When he sees Sehun, he asks about her and she introduces herself politely. The chief then invites both of them to the village hall, where a feast has been organized. After he leaves, Kanghyuk wonders what he should give the villagers in return, since they often bring him gifts. Sehun offers to help by preparing a dessert that she believes the elders will enjoy. As they begin preparing, Kanghyuk asks what she plans to make. Sehun replies that she is thinking of making traditional Korean sweets called Manhwa. He asks whether she is confident in making them, since it is not her specialty, but she decides to try anyway. Taking the lead like a head chef, Sehyun begins assigning the tasks, and Kanghyun asks her to explain each step slowly. While cooking, Sehyun notices that Kanghyun is preparing the sweets perfectly, even though it is his first time making them. She wonders whether an Italian chef really needs to be skilled at making traditional Korean sweets as well. Kanghyun, meanwhile, notices that the sweets Sehyun is preparing have a beautiful presentation, unlike his own, which look very plain. When he finishes making them, Sehyun asks him to hand them over, and she decorates them with cream and berries to make them look more presentable. Kanghyun is impressed by her skills and realizes that his sister has truly become a pâtissier, while Rice Cake and Tori sneak a few bites for themselves. Afterward, they all head toward the village hall. On the way, Sehyun begins to enjoy the calm atmosphere of the countryside. She realizes that her brother might also like this kind of environment, which is why he does not want to leave. As soon as they reach the hall, Sehyun starts laughing when she notices the banner mentioning Kanghyun, and she begins taking pictures because it looks funny. Kanghyun becomes irritated and drags her inside the hall, where everyone is waiting for them. Sehyun introduces herself to everyone, and they mention that she looks quite similar to her older brother. She receives a warm welcome and soon blends in well with the others. The villagers have prepared a hearty meal for them, which makes their mouths water, and soon everyone sits down to eat. Sehyun notices how warmly everyone is receiving them, and when the village head tells her about the kimchi he has packed especially for her, she feels overwhelmed. After the meal concludes, Sehyun presents the desserts she has prepared as a thank you gift, and no one can believe their eyes because they have never seen such pretty items before. Everyone seems to like the desserts and praises Sehyun for her skills. Kanghyun is shocked by everyone's excitement, while Sehyun, standing proudly among the villagers, begins to understand why her brother likes this village so much. On the other side, in the spirit world, Aura finally returns to her native forest after traveling through many forests on her journey. She suddenly notices smoke rising from between the trees, and after observing closely, she realizes that it is not from a fire, but from a hot water spring. Back on Earth, the day arrives when Sehyun has to leave. As she gets ready to go, she hugs Rice Cake lovingly and keeps cuddling him. Kanghyun makes a face and tells her that she has never shown him that much affection. Sehyun replies that he would have to be as cute as Rice Cake to receive that kind of treatment, which he clearly is not. She then thanks Kanghyun and tells him that because of him, she was able to rest well, but from now on, she will be very busy, unlike him. Kanghyun teases her in return, and the siblings end up in playful banter. After a while, Kanghyun advises her not to let her enthusiasm go too far, because this line of work will not be as easy as it seems. He explains that there will be times when she may feel angry or treated unfairly, and things may not look as beautiful as she imagines. Sehyun remains determined and says that it will be fine, because every main character has to go through hardships, and that is how the hero grows. Kanghyun smiles and tells her that with that mindset, she will do well. He then urges her to hurry, and Sehyun realizes that she is getting late. But just as she is about to leave, Kanghyun tells her that she can always return to rest whenever she feels tired from working too hard. Sehyun smiles and finally leaves for her destination. In the spirit world, Kanghyun continues his strength training under Noah. After a long and exhausting session, Noah decides to stop for the day. Kanghyun lies on the ground, completely tired, and mentions that he badly wants to soak in a hot bath at a bathhouse. Emilia asks what a bathhouse is, and Kanghyun explains that it is a place where people fill a large tub with hot water and soak together. Kanghyun then keeps repeating that he really wants a hot bath in his current state, but gets surprised when Emilia asks him if he would like to visit such a place. She informs him that there is a spot similar to what he described and takes him to a hot spring that Aura recently discovered. Kanghyun stares in shock because he has never seen such a large hot spring before. He soon notices the strong smell of sulfur coming from it. Emilia explains that the hot spring appeared some time ago and their patrol team had to purify it because the smell of the gas was too strong. Kanghyun notices that Noah, Mona, and his pets are watching from a distance. Emilia tells him that the beastmen have very sensitive noses, so the smell is unpleasant for them. She offers to reduce the smell further, but an irritated Noah refuses, saying that he can get used to it. Kanghyuk dips his feet into the spring, and his tired expression changes to satisfaction. He tells Emilia that it feels even more refreshing after such an intense workout, and says that he would love to visit a place like this every day if it were near his house. Emilia replies that she has never tried soaking in a hot spring before and does not know how it feels, so Kanghyuk encourages her to try. Suddenly, he gets an idea, and he asks his friends if they would like to experience a bit of human culture. The next day, Aura comes near the spring because her sister has asked her to join this cultural experience. However, she is surprised to see Kanghyuk sitting there wearing a very strange-looking pair of clothes. Kanghyuk is wearing a traditional Korean bathhouse outfit that Aura has never seen or heard of before, and she finds it quite unique. He explains that he has brought extra sets for everyone so they can all wear them together. When he gives her a pair, she keeps resisting at first, but her sister continues convincing her until she finally agrees, especially after noticing that Emilia is already wearing it. Nearby, Noah and Mona, who are also dressed in the same outfits, are preparing neck pillows for everyone because Kanghyuk asked them to do so. Kanghyuk then takes everyone to enjoy the hot spring together, while Mona stays nearby with rice cake because she cannot tolerate the strong smell of sulfur coming from the pool. Aura, with Sophie's help, removes the smell for them, and Mona finally steps into the water. However, as soon as she touches it, she finds it extremely hot, so she jumps onto Noah's head and ends up pushing him into the pool. After some time, the elves and the beastmen lie beside the pool to cool down their bodies, while Kanghyuk continues enjoying the hot spring. Kanghyuk then suggests trying a sauna in a nearby cave that he discovered the previous day. When everyone reaches there, Emilia notices that the cave is warm because hot spring water flows through it. Kanghyuk spreads a large mat on the ground and explains that a sauna is a bath using steam. He then places the neck pillows Noah prepared so everyone can lie down and enjoy the steam. Meanwhile, Tori creates a door at the cave entrance to allow sunlight inside while keeping the steam from escaping. Everyone begins enjoying the steam bath, but Aura and Mona cannot withstand the high temperature. Kanghyuk tells them that people usually stay inside until the sand runs out in an hourglass, but since it might be difficult for them, he suggests them to wait in a nearby cave which is cooler than this one. Realizing that the adults plan to stay longer, Aura and Mona quickly run towards the cave, which is covered in crystals. Rice Cake is already present there and is busy sleeping. The cool air dries their sweat and starts making them feel refreshed. Soon Kanghyuk and the others join them, and Kanghyuk lays out baked eggs and a fermented drink he prepared earlier. He tells them that the drink is called sikye and is made by fermenting grains. He then asks Mona, who is holding an egg, to crack it gently on her forehead for the best taste. Mona, however, doesn't fall for his joke and instead cracks it open by hitting it on Kanghyuk's head. As they step out of the cave, Emilia and Aura notice that their skin looks naturally brighter after the bath, but soon they start feeling hungry, so Kanghyuk quickly decides to prepare lunch for everyone. Noah, who has been napping in the sun, suddenly wakes up when the smell of meat reaches him. As he walks over, he spots some green, hair-like strands in a bowl and stares at them suspiciously. Kanghyuk explains that it is seaweed, a common ingredient that people prefer to eat after a hot bath because it helps the body recover. Noah mutters that it looks like ogre chest hair, and when Kanghyuk begins shaping rice balls to mix them with the seaweed, Noah mistakes them for eyeballs. Soon, everyone gathers and sits down to eat. Kanghyuk explains that the seaweed dish is good for hydration and easy on the stomach, especially after sweating in the sauna. The flavors turn out to suit their tastes, and even Mona enjoys the meal without hesitation. Watching them eat with satisfaction makes Kanghyuk feel proud, but his expression changes when he looks at his own bowl and realizes that the rice has already disappeared. As they finish eating, Emilia starts thinking about recommending this place to her fellow elves, imagining how much they would enjoy it. Noah also decides that his clan would appreciate a place like this to relax after intense training. Over time, the bathing culture Kanghyuk has introduced spreads among the beast folk and the elves, and the hot spring gradually becomes a shared gathering place, strengthening the bond between them. Meanwhile, back in the village school, one of the teachers, Miss Kim, goes on leave, leaving the administration in need of an instructor for the week's parent cooking class. The staff is worrying about finding someone skilled enough to guide the parents properly, and Sang-hoo, who is overhearing the discussion from outside, recommends Kang-hyun for the position. Soon after, Sang-hoo takes his teacher to Kang-hyun's house, and she immediately requests him to become their instructor for just one day. Since the school suddenly needs someone to conduct the parents' cooking class, Kang-hyun understands the urgency of the situation and agrees to help. But that is when his real dilemma begins. He keeps thinking about the menu, and although he knows many delicious recipes, he cannot decide what would suit the parents best. He needs something easy to prepare, quick to cook, and pleasant to taste, something that looks appealing and still tastes good even after keeping it for a while. His mother had always preferred dishes like that, and he also remembers how children complain when the same side dishes are repeated too often. While considering all this, Kang-hyun suddenly comes up with an idea for a suitable recipe. When the day arrives, he reaches the school gate and is immediately filled with nostalgia. Sang-hoo and his friends notice him and rush over to greet him. Sang-hoo proudly talks about his chef uncle, praising both his cooking and his sports skills, and even invites him to play soccer. However, Kang-hyun explains that he has other arrangements for now and suggests joining them later instead. As he walks toward the classroom, he stops at a notice board covered with children's drawings. In one of them, he sees a figure that looks like him standing alongside a kid, which makes him wonder if it is truly meant to be him. His gaze then shifts to the small desks and chairs in the classroom, reminding him of his own childhood when he once sat in those same seats. The principal notices him and welcomes him warmly. Kang-hyun hands over his resume, and as the principal reviews his achievements with visible surprise, he starts wondering if they should really keep someone like him for such a mere one-time job. Meanwhile, the parents are already gathered and excited to meet the famous chef who will be teaching them. The village chief is present as well, holding a colorful banner and proudly speaking about Kang-hyun to everyone around him. When Kang-hyun enters the classroom, he notices the chief enthusiastically cheering for him, which leaves him no option but to keep him outside so the class can proceed properly. After that, Kang-hyun introduces himself and explains the recipe he has chosen, stating that he will prepare a simple yet flavorful dish using eggplants. However, when he opens the crate of eggplants, he finds Tori and rice cake sitting inside it, so he quickly kicks them out of the class as well. Cheolman's father looks concerned at the sight of the vegetable and remarks that his son refuses to eat eggplants. Kang-hyun reassures him confidently, explaining that he plans to make an Italian oven dish, lasagna, in which the eggplant will replace the pasta sheets. Step by step, Kang-hyun begins explaining the recipe to the parents. While guiding them through the process, he notices that Cheolman's father is slicing the brinjals incorrectly. Kang-hyun gently steps in to assist him and realizes that he may be cooking for the first time, as he seems unfamiliar and slightly awkward while handling the kitchen tools. Kang-hyun patiently demonstrates the correct technique and continues describing each necessary step in detail. Soon, the assembled eggplant lasagna is placed in the oven to bake. Meanwhile, the village chief continues staring at Kang-hyun from outside the classroom, and, at the same time, Tori and Rice Cake quietly attempt to sneak back into the room, only to be caught once again. Noticing their excitement and eagerness to watch him, Kang-hyun finally allows them to sit inside as silent spectators and asks them to remain quiet during the session. In no time, the eggplant lasagna gets ready, and its aroma fills the room. Kang-hyun carefully portions it out and serves it to the parents. As they begin tasting it, their expressions change with surprise and satisfaction, as none of them had expected eggplant to taste this good, especially since it is often disliked at home. They even find it surprising that a vegetable many children refuse to eat can turn into something so enjoyable. Kanghyun shares that he once disliked eggplant as well, but his opinion changed after he tasted it as a fritter. He explains that the flavor of any dish ultimately depends on how the ingredients are used and combined. Cheolman's father sincerely thanks Kanghyun, admitting that he had always wished to have at least one special dish he could confidently prepare for his son, just like other fathers. Now he finally feels proud that he has something meaningful to cook for him. Watching their warm and grateful reactions, Kanghyun feels deeply moved and begins considering teaching them again in the future. Later that evening, back in their homes, the children quickly grow fond of the new recipe and ask their parents to prepare it again. Kanghyun prepares another batch at home, but when he unknowingly gives a piece to another wolf pup that looks like rice cake, he realizes that it is his sibling. Kanghyun asks the sibling why it is here, but instead of answering, it grabs him and starts dragging him forward as if it wants him to follow. Kanghyun decides to go along, and soon they reach a forest on the way to the snowy mountains. As they walk, he decides to give Rice Cake's sibling a name, and noticing its sugar-white coat, he names it Sugar. Rice Cake becomes jealous, while Sugar is nonchalant, and after continuing the journey, they finally arrive at Rice Cake's home in the snowy mountains. There, Sugar's father is already waiting for them and informs Kanghyun that the children wanted to see him. Although Kanghyun does not know the reason, he soon sees Rice Cake's siblings running toward him like children rushing to their father. Kanghyun opens his arms to welcome them, but instead of hugging him, they jump toward his bag as if searching for food. The pack leader explains that the children became attached to the meat Kanghyun gave them last time, and some of them even went down the mountain looking for him. He asks Kanghyun if he can give them that meat again and further adds that they might cause trouble if they do not get it. Kanghyun explains that he did not bring the same meat because he came on short notice, but this time he has brought another kind of meat with a different flavor. He unpacks his things along with the barbecue grill he brought and takes out the marinated pork neck he prepared the previous night. Since Kanghyun has decided to make pulled pork with it, he immediately starts preparing it. Kanghyun first sears the meat over the fire, and with Tori's help, he cooks enough for everyone. The children watch in awe as Kanghyun prepares the dish, and as soon as it is served, they begin eating greedily. While watching them, the pack leader tells him that earlier he noticed Kanghyun borrowing a spirit's power and asks whether that is the spirit he contracted with. Kanghyun agrees and explains that he met that friend with the help of an elf. The wolf remarks that it is quite intriguing, since most beings cannot even see a spirit, let alone form a contract with one. Kanghyun begins to wonder about this, as he can see other spirits without any difficulty, and the pack leader then tells him that he has seen someone like that before, someone who was just like Kanghyun and was loved by many races in the same way. The wolf leader begins telling Kanghyun about someone he once knew, a person he considers truly remarkable. According to the wolf, all of the animals and spirits used to deeply admire that man who could cross the boundaries between races with ease and bring smiles wherever he went. Although the story belongs to the distant past, the alpha tells Kanghyun that he carries a scent very similar to that person's. Hearing this, Kanghyun cannot stop thinking about the man and begins to wonder whether he might somehow know him. After spending a considerable amount of time with the white wolves in the snowy mountains, Kanghyun prepares to leave. The pack leader sincerely thanks him for his help and mentions that the children were able to eat well because of him. He then asks whether Kanghyun's world has many kinds of food, like the smoked dish he prepared. Kanghyun replies that his world uses spices extensively, which creates a wide variety of flavors, and that their daily life as well as culture are quite different from the wolves' world. Before departing, he promises to bring something even more unique next time. As Kanghyun walks away, the alpha reflects on his character and realizes that Kanghyun never uses his kindness as a reason to ask for anything in return. The wolf knows that it would have granted a request if Kanghyun had made one, yet it cannot decide whether Kanghyun is unaware of their power or simply has no desire to use it, even though many would beg for the blessing of a sacred wolf. Even so, It feels confident enough to entrust their child, Rice Cake, to Kanghyun without hesitation. On their way home, Rice Cake repeatedly looks back, as if sensing someone behind them, but Kanghyun does not understand this behavior. After they reach home and later head toward the market, it turns out that Sugar has secretly followed them without their knowledge. Believing that Kanghyun's world is filled with food, Sugar begins searching for it and eventually wanders into a school playground, where it starts playing on the rides and enjoys swinging until it grows tired. Meanwhile, a group of children quietly sneaks out of their homes and enters the park because they want to investigate the haunted stories that have surrounded the school for years. One rumor claims that the swing moves on its own at night. As the children approach, Sugar catches the scent of popcorn that Minju is eating and immediately jumps toward him, leaving the swing moving behind. When the children see the swing still swaying without anyone on it, they panic. They scream and rush into the school building, convinced that the ghost stories are real, while Sugar also follows them inside. At the same time, unaware of the chaos at the school, Kanghyun relaxes in a warm bath with his pets. All of the children are frightened, convinced that the ghost stories they have heard about the school are true. Although Cheolmin is scared as well, he continues to deny that ghosts exist in real life, while Minju insists that he saw something pure white rush past his feet. He remains certain that it was the ghost of someone who died on that swing. As Sugar quietly approaches them, the children scream, believing that the ghost is following them. In his panic, Minju drops the popcorn he is holding, and Cheolmin soon notices that the popcorn has completely disappeared. Hidden in the corridor behind them, Sugar is busy eating the popcorn it just stole from the children. Meanwhile, the parents realize that their children are missing from home and approach Kanghyun for help in finding them. Kanghyun agrees to accompany them and asks for Rice Cake's help in tracking the children by their scent, as it has done before. Cheolmin's father offers his son's sock to Rice Cake, believing that it will help if Rice Cake sniffs it, but Rice Cake reacts in terror and runs away instead. At the school, the children decide to head toward the bathroom, where they have heard rumors that a girl cries in the third stall. They believe the land on which the school was built used to be a cemetery, and that the graves were moved to construct the building. According to the stories, the spirit of one grave's owner returns each night to cry at the spot where her grave once stood, which they think is now the girl's bathroom. As they approach the door, they hear a strange noise coming from inside. When one of them finally gathers the courage to open it, the sound becomes clearer, and the entire group runs away in fear. In reality, the noise is coming from Sugar, who has become tangled in toilet paper and is struggling in panic to free itself. The children somehow make their way back into the corridor, but as they try to catch their breath, they notice someone staring at them. Although it is actually the school principal searching for them, the children are too frightened to recognize him and begin crying, mistaking him for another ghost. Soon, the parents arrive and finally find their children. They thank Rice Cake for helping to locate them, while Kanghyun quietly admires the children's courage for attempting a bravery test in the first place. Since Minju had locked his parents' room from the outside so they would not wake up, Cheolmin's father decides to drop him home. The principal advises Kanghyun to return home as well, since the weather has grown colder and snowfall is expected soon. After returning, Kanghyun plans to cook something warm for himself and his pets, but he suddenly notices children playing with Rice Cake at a distance, even though Rice Cake is standing right beside him. When he steps closer to investigate, he discovers Sugar and is shocked to see that it followed them. With no other option, Kanghyun brings Sugar home along with Rice Cake, who is clearly unhappy about its sibling staying in its space. Kanghyun decides to prepare a good meal for Sugar and return it to the mountains the next day after lunch. That night, heavy snow begins to fall across the village, marking Kanghyun's first winter since arriving there. Although the news reporter describes it as an unusually heavy snowfall, Kanghyun recognizes it as a blizzard, leaving him with no choice but to extend Sugar's visit for another day. Announcements spread throughout the village, stating that snowplows would not be able to enter because of the heavy accumulation of snow. Hearing this, Kanghyun decides to clear the area in front of his house himself. However, when he steps outside, he is surprised to see the village chief already operating a snowplow and clearing the main roads of the village. Meanwhile, inside the house, Sugar lies comfortably in front of the heater, while Rice Cake watches with visible jealousy. As the snow begins to clear, the children come outside to enjoy it. Sang-hoo runs toward Kang-yoon and invites him to join them, which Kang-yoon agrees. He sees that some of them are shaping the snow into duck-like figures, while others are building large snowmen. Kang-hyun wonders what he should make, but before he can decide, Tori touches one of the snow figures, and it quickly melts into water because of its heat. At the same time, Sugar and Rice Cake lie lazily on the snow, as if completely unaffected by the cold. Soon, the children announce a sledding competition, so Kang-hyun decides to participate and quickly prepares a makeshift sled using a rice sack he has brought from home. However, he feels slightly embarrassed when he sees that the other children have proper sledges, while he is holding only a sack. When the race begins, Sugar suddenly jumps onto Kang-hyun's sack, and as they slide down, the sack moves much faster than the others, helping him win the race. The children are impressed by his unexpected victory, while Kang-hyun remains shocked by what just happened. In the next round, Tori and Rice Cake join Kang-hyun on the sled, and this time he relaxes and enjoys the game, even though it is his first time sledding since elementary school. After playing in the snow for a while, he invites all the children to his house for a warm meal. The children gather around the heater to warm themselves, and Kang-hyun decides to prepare a hot soup for everyone. However, when he opens the refrigerator, he realizes it is empty, and he remembers that delivery services are not operating because the roads are closed due to the snowfall. With no other option, he begins sorting through the remaining ingredients in his kitchen, selecting whatever is still usable, and finally starts preparing the broth. Kang-hyun first stir-fries the anchovies and then adds them to a pot of water along with kelp to build the base of the broth. As it begins to boil, he prepares the remaining ingredients for sujebi, a traditional Korean soup made with hand-torn dough pieces cooked in a savory broth. The children watch him closely from the kitchen doorway, eager to help, so Kang-hyun assigns them small tasks to keep them involved. Meanwhile, Minju and Cheolmin, who had been resting near the heater, sit up as the aroma of the soup spreads through the room, and soon everyone gathers around to eat. After the meal, Kang-hyun gives Rice Cake and Sugar a warm bath and realizes that Sugar likely followed them simply to spend time with him. He gently asks whether it would like to stay a few more days before returning to the mountains, and although Sugar's expression remains unchanged, it wags its tail in agreement. Since the roads are still closed due to the snow, Kang-hyun decides to take Sugar with him to the market to buy groceries in person. When they arrive and begin looking around, Kang-hyun notices a crowd gathered around a street vendor making taffy. Curious, he walks closer to watch but is surprised to see the village chief performing alongside Jung, the pianist. They have prepared a song dedicated to Kang-hyun and are singing it while repeatedly calling out his name. To his further embarrassment, they have even made a banner for him, and he finds his own photograph hanging around the village chief's neck. Soon, the village chief and Jung begin drawing away the taffy vendor's customers with their performance, so the vendor pulls out his drums to compete with the pianist, and the situation quickly turns into an impromptu musical contest. The village chief enthusiastically declares that it will be a one-shot match for Kang-hyun and for the pride of their village, while Kang-hyun watches in disbelief, wondering why his honor has suddenly become part of the competition. Before things escalate further, he quietly pulls Jong and the village chief aside into a corner, while the irritated taffy vendor looks around for them. Kang-hyun asks what exactly they are trying to accomplish. The village chief explains that they are promoting the village to visitors who have come for the 5-day market, and Jong is helping by performing music to attract attention. Kang-hyun then questions why he is being included in this promotion and why they have printed brochures featuring him. The village chief replies that when promoting a village, it is important to highlight its local specialties, And since Kanghyun's shop has become one of them, they decided to promote it as well. Although Kanghyun feels touched by their thoughtful intention, he is uncomfortable with the large poster they have made of him. Jong suggests inviting Gi-hun to draw caricatures for additional promotion, and after making a call to him at the market, they begin to leave. Before parting, the village chief advises Kanghyun to visit the third alley and recommends a good restaurant there. As Kanghyun continues exploring the market with his companions, he notices a pet shop selling clothes for animals and immediately begins selecting several outfits for rice cake. After leaving the shop, they pass by another stall selling dishes whose aroma fills the entire alley, and Kanghyun purchases a generous portion of the food as well. Eventually, they sit down to eat sweet and crispy hot dog, followed by donuts. His pets, along with Sugar, also enjoy the savory dishes, and despite his cart already being full, Kanghyun decides to continue shopping. When he stops at a vegetable stall, the elderly woman selling the produce finds his pets adorable and asks if she can touch them. Kanghyun hesitates, unsure whether the animals would be comfortable with it, but to his surprise, Sugar jumps out of the cart and approaches the woman. She gently pats him, and it appears that Sugar enjoys the attention. Pleased by the interaction, the old woman adds extra vegetables to Kanghyun's purchase. Later, as Kanghyun walks home, he considers cooking whatever Sugar would like to eat, especially after receiving so many extra vegetables. On the way, he meets the village chief again, who reminds him of the restaurant he recommended earlier and takes him there. The village chief leads Kanghyun into the restaurant, where Mr. Yoon, the owner's son, is preparing for the day's opening. Yoon immediately recognizes the village chief, who introduces Kanghyun as a chef. As Kanghyun looks around, he wonders whether they have arrived before opening hours, since there is not a single customer in sight. Yoon, unaware of Kanghyun's true identity, remarks that he looks very similar to the famous star chef from the Cooking Survival show, not realizing that he is speaking to the chef himself. Kanghyun stands there, stunned, unsure whether he should reveal who he really is. The village chief asks about Yoon's father, who usually runs the kitchen. Yoon explains that he is managing the restaurant because his father has not been feeling well and has gone to Seoul for treatment. He assures them that he has learned all the recipes from his father and gained experience by observing him for years, and he sees this as an opportunity to prepare himself to take over the restaurant fully. Kanghyun senses Yoon's pride and quietly admires his determination, yet he also notices a trace of anxiety in his expression. Kanghyun and the village chief take their seats to order. The chief mentions that the owner has been serving gukbap for 50 years and fondly recalls how the dish gave him strength in his younger days. When Yoon serves the gukbap, Kanghyun eagerly tastes the dish and finds the broth clean, without any unpleasant smell, making it rich and satisfying. As they eat, Yoon watches them nervously and asks for their opinion. Kanghyun compliments the taste, but the village chief adds that although the dish is satisfying, it tastes slightly different from before. Yoon's expression stiffens as the chief continues, asking whether he has changed the meat supplier. Yoon insists that everything is the same and asks what exactly feels different, but the chief can only say that he cannot explain it clearly, though it does not taste the same. Yoon begins to panic, questioning why this is happening even though he is following the same recipe, using the same ingredients, and cooking with the same tools. Kanghyun tries to reassure him, but Yoon confesses that when his father ran the restaurant, it was always full of customers, whereas now it remains empty. He admits that he knows something must be wrong and asks Kanghyun to tell him what differs between his cooking and his father's. At first, Kanghyun says he cannot make a direct comparison since he has never tasted the father's version. After reflecting for a moment, he suggests that the difference may lie not only in the recipe but also in instinct, efficiency, touch, and experience. Hearing this, Yoon grows more discouraged and admits that he had been confident in recent weeks, hoping to prove to his father that he could manage the restaurant alone, but now he fears disappointing him. Kanghyuk explains that cooking cannot fully rely on recipes alone because a seasoned chef's subtle control and intuition develop over years of practice. However, since Yoon has spent so much time observing his father, he likely carries the essential knowledge within him and only needs to recognize what is missing. Kanghyuk then follows Yoon into the kitchen, where Yoon proudly explains their equipment and ingredients. He tells Kanghyuk that they have purchased high-quality meat from the same supplier for decades, and he arrives early every morning to prepare everything himself. Kanghyuk notices that the kitchen is exceptionally clean and praises Yoon for maintaining such high standards. Yoon smiles brightly and asks about Kanghyuk's own restaurant, still unaware that he is speaking to the very chef he admires. Kanghyuk chooses to keep his identity secret to avoid further complications. While preparing the gukbap again in front of Kanghyuk, Yoon describes his routine, explaining that he comes early every day without taking time off, just like his father, and boils the broth for hours over intense heat. Kanghyuk knows that using an ox head requires tremendous effort because it releases a large amount of fat and is difficult to handle, so producing a broth without any unpleasant odor demands exceptional care. As he observes Yoon's method and effort, Kanghyuk wonders what could possibly be different when the recipe and ingredients remain the same. Suddenly, as he mentally reviews each step of the process, he realizes where the mistake lies. Kanghyuk asks Yoon whether he skims the fat from the broth continuously, and Yoon replies that he does, explaining that he stands by the fire almost all night to remove every trace of fat so that none remains. Kanghyuk then points out that even the meat Yoon serves is completely lean, without any visible fat, and Yoon confirms that he does this to provide only the cleanest and best portions to his customers. Kanghyuk turns to the village chief and asks whether the day's gukbap tastes cleaner than it used to, and the chief agrees, saying that the older version felt more savory. While Yoon listens carefully, Kanghyuk smiles and explains that the savoriness the chief remembers likely came from the fat itself, and if all the fat is removed, that depth of flavor disappears as well. Yoon argues that fat must be removed to eliminate unpleasant odors, but Kanghyuk clarifies that although it is necessary to remove the fat that causes bad smells, excessive skimming also removes the flavorful fat that gives the broth its richness. As a result, the soup may taste clean but slightly light and lacking depth. Kanghyuk then asks Yoon whether his father used to skim the broth in the same way, and Yoon hesitates answering as he starts thinking carefully. That night, Yoon begins cooking again and recalls that his father did not skim the fat so frequently, but instead removed it only once every few hours. He also remembers that his father did not serve only lean meat, but allowed some fat to remain for flavor. As these memories return to him, he begins to understand his father's approach more clearly and realizes that his own impatience had narrowed his perspective. With this new understanding, he feels more confident that he can truly recreate his father's recipe. The next day, Yoon serves the dish again to the village chief, who immediately recognizes the familiar taste and exclaims that it is exactly as it used to be. Yoon smiles with satisfaction and is grateful that he has preserved the charm of his father's signature gukbap. Kanghyuk tells Yoon to prepare for a busy day, as they must now share this restored flavor with the regular customers. However, Yoon feels hesitant about approaching the customers who were disappointed before, and he worries about whether they would truly be willing to return to the restaurant again. Determined to help, the village chief takes action, and together with jong, rice cake, and sugar, he begins performing outside the restaurant to attract attention. He loudly promotes the shop while Gi-hun draws caricatures for visitors who come to try the gukbap. With Jong offering free song requests for customers who enter, the group quickly gathers a large crowd and brings many people into the restaurant. Kanghyuk manages the dining hall and sends Yoon back to the kitchen to focus on preparing orders. Soon the restaurant is filled with satisfied customers who are delighted to taste the familiar flavor once again. Some of them ask Kanghyun whether Mr. Yoon has returned, and Kanghyun happily explains that the owner's son is now cooking in the kitchen and has mastered the same skilled touch, which is why the broth tastes just as it did before. The restaurant gradually regains its popularity, and Kanghyun's presence as a well-known chef draws even more attention. Before long, rumors began circulating online that Chef Kanghyun Lee is filming a restaurant variety show in the countryside. Meanwhile, in the spirit realm, Randolph, Noah, and Emilia face an unexpected problem as they stare at a mysterious snail army that has suddenly appeared in their villages. Having never encountered such creatures before, they are unsure about what action to take next to solve this problem. Noah suggests eating them, but then hesitates at his idea when Emilia brings one close to him. At that moment, they notice Kanghyun approaching the lake and tell him about the problem. Kanghyun is shocked to hear about these strange creatures spreading across the forest. Randolph explains that their number has suddenly increased a lot in the past few days, especially around the border area, so the people are unhappy about it. Kanghyun observes the creatures and notices that they look somewhat similar to whelks, although their color is stranger than what he has seen in his own world. He realizes that since there are so many of them, they might be an invasive species. Emilia tells him that they have never seen these creatures before, and asks if he knows what they are. Kanghyun replies that he is not completely sure, but in the place where he comes from, a similar ingredient is called golbangi. Noah excitedly declares that his theory has been proven correct, and although Randolph and Emilia are still not ready to eat them, Noah suddenly puts one into his mouth and starts chewing it. However, he quickly spits it out because of its extremely fishy smell, which confirms to Kanghyun that it is edible. Noah mentions that the shell is troublesome, but the meat has a slight sweetness and a good chewy texture. Hearing this, Kanghyun realizes that the taste is similar to the golbangi he knows, so eating them could actually solve the problem. Randolph and Emilia stare at Kanghyun in confusion, and Kanghyun asks them if they have never tried them before. Emilia hesitantly admits that they have not, and Kanghyun tells her that if they taste them properly, they will agree with Noah. Soon, Kanghyun begins cooking and prepares a simple but delicious whelk soup which he names golbangi tang. He then serves it to his friends, who are still a little hesitant to try it. Kanghyun tells them to eat the whelks with the red sauce he prepared, and also shows them how to remove the meat from the shells. Randolph decides to try it first, and even though the dish does not look very impressive, he trusts Kanghyun's cooking skills. Kanghyun confidently claims that Randolph will definitely like it, and as soon as Randolph takes the first bite, he suddenly starts craving alcohol with it, which Kanghyun had already prepared. Ultimately, Randolph begins enjoying the meal. Seeing Randolph so satisfied, Emilia also removes the meat from a shell and dips it into the sauce before eating it. As soon as she tastes it, the flavors burst in her mouth, and she begins eating eagerly. Randolph becomes excited about this new recipe and praises Kanghyun for the idea. Emilia then asks Kanghyun if he can share the recipe with the elves, and Kanghyun replies that there are many more recipes that can be made with whelks. Since everyone has now recognized their value, he decides to move on to the next step. Kanghyun summons the chefs from the 3 clans and shows them the whelks he collected from the lakeside. At first, the chefs look excited, but their expressions soon turn nervous when they see the strange, creepy creatures inside the bag, as they have no idea what they are. Kanghyun tells the chefs that he is going to teach them a few recipes using whelks, and he believes they will handle the task well since all of them are experienced ones. Meanwhile, Randolph brings the translation artifact along with the kitchen tools Kanghyun asked for, while Emilia helps carry clean water for cooking with Sona's assistance. Noah also arrives with the ingredients Kanghyun requested. Thomas, however, keeps looking around awkwardly, unsure of what he should do in this situation. At first, he simply followed along after hearing that his kingdom was searching for the best human chef to represent them, but now he finds himself sitting beside 2 chefs from completely different races. Kanghyun greets Kanpung, the representative from the elf village, and instantly recognizes her as the one who sold the fried kohlrabi during the fair. Kanpung tells him that she volunteered immediately after hearing that Kanghyuk would be teaching cooking. She also praises the sauce he made during the fair, explaining that it greatly boosted their sales. Kanghyuk quickly realizes that the chef seems more impressed by the profits they made than by the sauce itself. He then asks whether she would be comfortable with the ingredients they will use today, since he knows that elves usually prefer vegetarian cooking. Kanpung tells him that she never really disliked eating meat and is already thinking about selling the new dishes in her shop, although Kanghyuk can tell from her face that her words are not matching her expressions. Haemin recalls the time when Kanghyuk first taught her cooking in the Beastman village, and remembers how he scolded her while correcting her recipes. Kanghyuk sheepishly asks everyone to relax this time, explaining that they are all veteran chefs now, so there should be nothing much for him to correct. However, after some time, his expression changes as he begins pointing out mistakes again. He even criticizes Thomas for working too slowly, as Thomas was struggling in removing the meat from the whelk shells, so Kanghyuk brings out even more shells to make him practice. Kanghyuk tells everyone that he has already boiled the whelk meat for cooking, but they can also steam it if they want to serve it as a cold dish. He then asks everyone to taste it, and as the chefs try the meat, they are surprised by its chewy texture and slightly sweet flavor. Thomas suggests grilling the meat in butter to enhance its taste even more, and Kanghyuk appreciates the idea, which makes Thomas extremely happy. However, his expression changes when Kanpung suggests frying the whelks as a drinking snack, which Kanghyuk also praises, and soon the two chefs begin competing with each other. Haemin finds herself caught between them, until Kanghyuk finally stops the argument and announces that they will prepare the whelks in both styles. Thomas begins first, where he mixes butter with garlic, onion, salt, pepper, and parsley, then places the cleaned whelk meat back inside the shells. After sealing the openings with garlic butter, he bakes them in the oven until the surface turns golden brown. Thomas names the dish whelk escargot and serves it to Randolph and Rice Cake, who are acting as judges for the day. They enjoy the juicy, buttery flavor and exclaim that the dish pairs perfectly with wine. Thomas grins proudly while glancing at Kanpung, who smiles calmly before starting to prepare her own version. Kanpung cuts the whelk meat into bite-sized pieces and seasons them with salt and pepper. She then prepares a thick batter using starch, egg white, and oil, and coats the whelks before frying them once until they turn golden. After that, she fries the fritters again quickly at high heat and prepares a quick sauce to coat them. Soon, her version of the whelk dish is complete. Emilia and Noah serve as the other two judges and enjoy the crispy fritters very much. Even though both dishes receive praise, the judges' comments feel incomplete because Kanpung and Thomas want to determine a winner. However, when they taste each other's dishes, they are both amazed by the quality and flavors, and they realize that competing with each other is pointless. Meanwhile, Haemin also impresses the judges with her own dish, which is a comforting whelk porridge. Kanpung then suggests to Thomas that instead of ranking their dishes, they should simply admit that every dish is good in its own way, since each one has its own unique charm. She praises Thomas's recipe, and he agrees with her words while complimenting her dish as well. After that, they move together to taste Haemin's porridge. Kanghyuk then presents his own recipe, which he prepared using ingredients he brought from his own world. As expected, the dish tastes excellent, just like his other recipes. Kanpung becomes very interested and eventually persuades Kanghyuk to teach her the recipe, even though the ingredients required for it are extremely difficult to find in their world. Soon, everyone celebrates the discovery of a solution to the whelk problem and raises a toast together, drinking heavily while enjoying the food. Later, Noah presents the chef's recipes to Cassandra, who then admires Kanghyuk for solving the forest's problem so easily and feels satisfied with her decision to appoint him as both the mediator and the inspector. Afterward, she quietly begins waiting again for his next visit. Later, Kanghyuk arrives in Seoul for some personal work and speaks with his mother, who tells him to check on his sister. Even though Kanghyuk does not really want to, he has no choice but to visit her. Tori and Rice Cake are with him as well, happily enjoying the trip. Since he has returned to the city after a long time, he decides to walk around slowly and enjoy the atmosphere of the city. Meanwhile, back at his restaurant in the village, the children feel disappointed when they see the restaurant closed because they had planned to take Kanghyuk with them for sledding. Kanghyuk first visits his former workplace, where his old boss has invited him to adjust a few recipes for the restaurant. Two staff chefs accompany him while his former boss watches happily from a distance, as he is already satisfied on seeing Kanghyuk working in the kitchen, and he believes that the star chef will help him in restoring the restaurant's standards. Kanghyuk begins by tasting one of the dishes and continues making several small adjustments to the recipes, while the two chefs keep observing him closely. As he continues working, the chefs admire his skill because his simple suggestions are greatly improving the quality of their dishes. While working, Kanghyuk starts remembering his earlier days when he used to work in an open kitchen like this one. At that time, he was extremely nervous and often made many mistakes. Now, when he looks at another chef nervously working beside him, he wonders if he used to look the same back then. Later, as Kanghyuk prepares to leave, his former boss excitedly thanks him for helping at the right time. He keeps urging Kanghyuk to come back whenever he wants, but Kanghyuk ignores the offer because he is still not interested in any of his proposals. He quietly leaves and decides to take his pets somewhere for lunch. While walking, he keeps thinking about his former boss and finds his passion both admirable and somewhat overwhelming. Suddenly, a car stops in front of him, and Kanghyuk sees his friend Jim signaling him to get in. Kanghyuk gets into the car and they head toward the five-star restaurant where Kanghyuk's sister works. During the drive, Jim asks Kanghyuk why he suddenly wants to see his sister so badly, to which Kanghyuk replies that he is only following his mother's orders. Kanghyuk then asks whether Jim has met Sehyeon before, and Jim remembers meeting her when she used to dream of becoming a pâtissier, and he used to tease her about it. Kanghyuk feels proud that his sister managed to achieve her dream and is now working in a five-star restaurant. Jim then asks if Kanghyuk informed her about his visit, but Kanghyuk smiles mischievously and says that he plans to surprise her. However, his excitement fades a little when he learns that pets are not allowed inside the restaurant, so they have to leave them behind before entering. After sitting down, they look through the transparent window that shows the pastry kitchen and begin searching for Sehyeon among the other pâtissiers working there. Jim feels slightly uncomfortable and wonders if they really belong in such a place, while Kanghyuk carefully observes the desserts that are served to them, since the restaurant is famous for them. He begins tasting the desserts and immediately notices the freshness and the distinct flavors in each dish, though he is not sure whether his sister prepared them. As he slowly sips his tea, he suddenly sees his sister appear in the kitchen, working quickly as she follows her senior's instructions. Kanghyuk quietly smiles while watching her, noticing how hard she is working to keep up with everyone. Soon afterward, Kanghyuk and Jim leave the restaurant and return to the car. Kanghyuk is holding a cake he bought from the restaurant. Jim asks if he is really leaving without even greeting his sister, and Kanghyuk replies that it is better this way because speaking with her while she is busy might only make things harder for her, especially since she has just started working there. Jim then asks whether Kanghyuk plans to return to the village now, but Kanghyuk refuses and simply tells him to drive somewhere else. Kanghyuk keeps rummaging through the fridge while Jim watches him and remarks that no one would believe the house belongs to him because Kanghyuk moves around as if it were his own home and already knows where everything is kept. Kanghyuk asks him to bring a few more ingredients that he needs for the recipe he plans to make. Jim then asks him to cook some jambalaya as well, but Kanghyuk refuses and tells him to buy it from a store instead of asking him to make it. Jim complains that he brought Kanghyuk to the grocery store expecting him to cook something special, but Kanghyuk firmly denies that idea. Soon the two friends sit down to eat, and Jim starts enjoying the food Kanghyuk has prepared. He asks Kanghyuk to make some extra for him too, but Kanghyuk refuses again and instead begins packing the dishes he cooked for Sehyeon. Since his sister is living alone for the first time and had always stayed with their parents before, Kanghyuk wants to look after her while he is in Seoul. Later in the evening, Sehyeon is returning home from work on a bus and has almost fallen asleep during the ride. She manages to wake up just as her stop arrives, but while getting off, she realizes that she forgot to stop by the lunchbox shop to buy dinner. She sighs in frustration because she is already tired of eating delivery food every day. As she walks toward her apartment, she starts missing home-cooked meals again. However, when she reaches her door, she suddenly notices rice cake sitting there and eagerly looking at her. Sehyeon looks up in surprise and sees Kanghyun standing in front of her while scolding her for coming home so late. She gets shocked to see her brother standing there without any prior notice. Kanghyun calmly explains that he came to Seoul for work, and since their mother told him to check on her, he had no choice but to visit. Sehyeon asks him to step back as he looks strange while being dressed in suspicious-looking clothes, but Kanghyun casually tells her that she does not need to worry because he has already told everyone that he is her brother. Sehyeon panics again, but Kanghyun quickly calms her down and asks her to open the door lock as it is already getting cold outside. As soon as they step inside the apartment, Kanghyun begins inspecting the entire place and soon starts nagging again when he notices many empty delivery food containers piled up near the sink. Sehyeon becomes irritated and threatens to kick him out if he keeps behaving like their mother. While Kanghyun begins cleaning the kitchen, Sehyeon suggests ordering food for dinner, but Kanghyun immediately stops her and asks her to get ready instead. When Sehyeon returns after changing her clothes, she freezes in surprise as her eyes fall on the dining table, which is now filled with freshly prepared home-cooked food. She asks Kanghyun if he made everything, and he casually replies that it is a special service to celebrate her first time living alone. He even tells her that he has packed extra portions and stored them in the refrigerator so she can eat them later on other days. Sehyeon takes a bite and then quickly starts eating as if she has been starving for days. Kanghyun watches her and jokingly asks whether the restaurant where she works does not feed her properly. Sehyeon makes an annoyed face and admits that she has been craving warm home-cooked meals like this for a long time. Kanghyun then asks about her work. Sehyeon explains that the restaurant is extremely strict with newcomers and that beginners are usually given only menial at first. Kanghyun asks if it is difficult for her, and Sehyeon agrees to it before starting to complain about the endless work she has to do without much choice. Kanghyun quietly listens while nodding his head, and Sehyeon tells him that she still feels hopeful as she believes that she must endure this stage in order to reach the next step in her career. Kanghyun feels relieved and happy to see that her determination has not changed at all. After finishing the meal, Sehyeon thanks Kanghyun for preparing so much food for her, but she freaks out once again when Kanghyun brings out the cake he bought from her restaurant. She asks him if he visited her workplace, and Kanghyun only smiles. He then starts teasing her about the strawberry toppings on the cake, especially since he knows that she must have been the one who sliced them. The next day, Kanghyun wakes up late after receiving a call from Jim, who asks him to spend the day with him, but then also tells him to leave rice cake behind as there will be no place where they can take the pet along. Kanghyun reluctantly leaves rice cake with Sehyeon, who becomes very excited at the thought of spending the whole day playing with him. Later, Kanghyun is surprised when Jim takes him to a theater, especially when Jim usually prefers watching shows on online platforms. Kanghyun also notices that Sina is sitting beside them, and he does not understand why she is there, so he asks Jim about it. Sina then explains that they have come to watch the first premiere of her show, in which she is playing the lead role. It is the same show where she had to act as a singer, and she really wanted Kanghyun to see it. As Sina's character appears on the screen, Kanghyun realizes that it is the same drama she had been auditioning for earlier, and to his surprise, she is actually singing in the show. After the screening, the three friends gather at a restaurant to celebrate Sina's success. Sina happily announces that the hospital has confirmed that there is no longer anything wrong with her throat and that she has completely recovered. She thanks Kanghyun for the syrup he gave her, explaining that it helped her heal and allowed her to sing again. Kanghyun praises her performance, and they begin discussing the story of the show. At that moment, Kanghyun receives a message from Sehyeon, who has taken rice cake to a park. She informs him that all the dogs in the park are avoiding them for some unknown reason, but Kanghyun knows that it is only because rice cake is actually a wolf. Meanwhile, Sena orders one of the restaurant's signature dishes for Kanghyun, and as soon as he takes the first bite, he is deeply impressed by the taste. He almost rushes toward the kitchen to meet the chef who prepared such an incredible dish. But then he decides to wait because he wants to stay with Sena and celebrate her success first. Sena then asks him if he wants to know who made the dish, and Jim adds that Kanghyun will be shocked when he finds out. Kanghyun becomes confused when he realizes that both of them know the chef while he does not. He starts wondering who could possibly cook such impressive Korean-style fusion cuisine. As he continues thinking about the gochujang-based dish he is eating, his friends keep watching him while sharing suspicious smiles among themselves. Seeing his puzzled expression reminds Sena of the past, and she remembers the first time she met Kanghyun. She recalls how he had the same expression on his face back then, and her memory goes back to the day when Jim first took her to Kanghyun's place to celebrate the success of her songs. At that time, she wanted to eat something special, and even though the place was closed at the time, Jim confidently walked inside. When she followed him, she saw Kanghyun standing inside the kitchen while staring angrily at them. Sena looked at Kanghyun with curiosity and a bit of admiration because she knew he was a famous chef. When their eyes met, she tried to say something polite, but before she could even finish, Kanghyun interrupted her. He told her to sit down rudely while mentioning that they were already late for their reservation. His words immediately offended Sena, however. Before she could say anything, Jim quickly stopped her and signaled her to stay calm. At the same time, Kanghyun turned his back on them without another word and walked into the kitchen to prepare their food. As Sena watched him leave, her irritation grew stronger, and she could not help but think that he was even worse in real life than he appeared on television. After they sat down, Jim tried to calm her by explaining that she should not take Kanghyun's behavior too seriously, as he was going through a difficult time and holding back many emotions. At that time, he also explained that Kanghyun was someone who was deeply passionate about cooking but struggled with dealing with people. According to him, if Sena talked to him more, she might understand him better, but she found it hard to believe this because of how rudely he had just acted. Even so, when she looked towards the kitchen again, she noticed that Kanghyun was smiling slightly while cooking, and his movements looked calm and focused. The anger that had been visible in his eyes earlier was no longer there, and instead, he looked peaceful and fully absorbed in his work. As she continued watching him, she realized that when Kanghyun was quiet and cooking, he seemed like a completely different person. The dishes he prepared also caught her attention because they looked like they were made with love and care. However, despite this, she was not completely convinced and wondered if they would taste as good as they looked. When the food was finally served, Sena's reaction changed the moment she took the first bite. Her expression shifted so quickly and looked so morbid that Jim became worried and asked if something was wrong. Sena immediately denied it and admitted that the food was extremely delicious, explaining how it melted in her mouth as soon as she tasted it. Her surprise was the reason she made a sour face initially, and as she continued eating, she began to wonder how someone who was so perfect in cooking could lack personality. Jim noticed the look on her face and understood what she was thinking, so he told her not to overthink and simply enjoy the food. Shortly after that, Kanghyun came out of the kitchen with another dish and explained it to them. He told his guests that it was botarga, a pasta made using mullet roe from Oro di Sardegna, often called the gold of Sardinia. This time, Sena noticed how excited Kanghyun looked as he spoke about the dish. As she took her first bite, she immediately noticed the rich and salty flavor with a well-balanced taste. Although the dish carried a deep essence of the sea, yet it did not feel overwhelming and tasted clean as well as refined. She began to think carefully about the flavors and started talking to herself about the dish which, when not prepared properly, tasted overly oily and left a fishy aftertaste. However, this version was completely different as the flavors felt precise as well as satisfying. While she was speaking to herself, Kanghyun quietly approached their table and stood beside them, listening to her without interrupting. Sena kept thinking about the dish, and tried to identify the ingredient that balanced its richness. After a short pause, she wondered if it might be wasabi, and Kanghyuk was impressed by her guess. When Sena noticed him standing nearby, she looked at him in surprise once again, but this time his behavior was completely different. Instead of being cold, he seemed eager to explain and told her that he had added a small amount of wasabi oil to the dish to give it a smoother finish, as it helped cut the greasiness and made the umami flavor stand out more. Sena felt overwhelmed by his detailed explanation and how much he was speaking now, when all of a sudden, Kanghyuk asked her if she would like to try a new dessert recipe he was working on. Sena was caught off guard and hesitated for a moment, but eventually agreed, not knowing what else to say. Kanghyuk seemed happy with her answer and quickly returned to the kitchen to prepare the dessert. As Sena watched him leave, she remained in shock, unable to understand how the same person who had been rude earlier was now so enthusiastic and lively. Jim noticed her confusion and smiled at her, reminding her once again that Kanghyuk was simply a cooking maniac. Sena looked toward Kanghyuk again and this time paid closer attention to him, noticing how his eyes seemed to shine with joy whenever he cooked, and she realized that there was something genuine about his passion that was hard to ignore. At present, as Sena thinks about everything that has happened so far, she realizes that her earlier judgment may have been too quick, and without even noticing it, a small smile appears on her face. Kanghyuk notices it while talking to Jim and it confuses him, so he asks her if something is wrong, but Sena quickly shakes her head and chooses not to explain what is going on in her mind. After finishing the meal, Kanghyuk leans back in his chair while holding his stomach. Because of his curiosity, he ordered almost every dish on the menu, and it was so good that he ended up finishing all of it. As they get ready to leave, his gaze drifts toward the kitchen once again because he still wants to meet the chef so badly. Just then, someone calls out to him from behind, and Kanghyuk turns around only to see the well-known critic, Chef Hwang Daegul, standing in front of him. He greets him excitedly, while immediately suspecting that the restaurant might belong to him, and to his surprise, Hwang admits that this place is indeed his newly opened fusion Korean restaurant. Hwang then begins to speak more openly, explaining that ever since he returned from Kanghyuk's restaurant, he has been thinking deeply about his journey as a chef and the direction he truly wants to follow. In the end, he decided to listen to his heart and take a new path, even if it meant stepping out of his comfort zone, while also making it clear that he is not going to abandon traditional Korean cuisine, but will grow beyond it while still respecting its roots. As Kanghyuk listens to his story, he realizes that Hwang has taken a big risk, especially since he has a lot to lose, yet he is still moving forward, with confidence. When Hwang asks him what he thinks about the food, Kanghyuk replies with genuine excitement that he enjoyed the dishes so much that it is hard to believe they were made by someone known mainly for traditional Korean cooking. Hearing this, Hwang feels pleased and thanks Kanghyuk sincerely, admitting that his words and influence have helped him move forward without hesitation. Hwang then tells him that even though he knows Kanghyuk is not very interested in appearing on television, his producer has still asked him to at least present this new idea to him once. He then informs Kanghyuk that the gourmet travel program he hosts is reaching its 2-year anniversary, so they are planning a special episode to mark the occasion. Kanghyuk quickly understands what Hwang is looking for, and his guess is confirmed when Hwang asks for his permission to film at his restaurant back in the village. The request is so sudden that Kanghyuk feels surprised, unsure of how to respond. While at the same time, far away in the village, the children stand quietly in front of his closed restaurant, waiting eagerly for him to return. As the day comes to an end, Sehyun walks alongside Kanghyuk to see him off at the station, teasing him the whole time as she calls herself an angelic sister who personally escorts her brother. She proudly declares that he must have done something good in his past life to deserve a sister like her, but as they continue walking, she brings up the real reason. She asks him if he will leave Rice Cake with her, insisting that the puppy seems to enjoy staying with her more than with him. Kanghyuk immediately understands her intentions and looks at her with disbelief, asking if that was the real reason she came all the way to see him off. At the same time, Rice Cake and Tori are clearly relieved that they are finally going back with him after they have spent an entire day escaping Se-hyun. However, Se-hyun does not give up and once again asks him to leave them with her, promising that she will return them next time. Kanghyun refuses sternly and makes it clear that he has no intention of leaving his friends behind. Se-hyun then thanks him sincerely for the side dishes he prepared for her, and with that, the two siblings share a warm farewell before parting ways. As the train starts moving, Kanghyun sits quietly and begins thinking about the upcoming broadcast, wondering if he should prepare a special dish, but after a moment, he decides not to think too much about it for now since there is still time before the filming begins. After returning home, Kanghyun enters the spirit world for his usual camping routine and starts training with Randolph once again. As they train together, Randolph notices how much Kanghyun has improved and openly admires his progress. Kanghyun agrees with him and says that physically demanding tasks like whipping meringue, which once felt difficult to him, now feel much easier than before. When the training ends, Randolph asks Kanghyun if he has some time, because the Lord wants to meet him about the Welk matter, which has recently brought great benefits to the territory. He says that it would be best if they could meet today, and Kanghyun agrees, realizing it has been a while since he last visited the village. When they arrive, Kanghyun immediately senses that something feels different, as the atmosphere is more lively than usual and preparations seem to be happening all around. He asks Randolph if there is a festival, and Randolph confirms that it is time for Winter Grandfather's Day, a festival based on an old legend about a man dressed in blue who gives gifts to good children. Kanghyun finds the story somewhat similar to Santa, but with a different feeling, and out of curiosity, he asks if the old man secretly leaves gifts beside sleeping children. Randolph finds that idea strange and calls it trespassing, explaining instead that children must find the hidden winter grandfather somewhere in the village to receive their gifts, making the festival feel more like a game. Kanghyun finds this idea exciting, and Randolph further explains that the festival is not just about gifts, but also about ending the year by gathering with people one is grateful for and sharing a meaningful meal. Hearing this, Kanghyun begins thinking about the people he feels thankful for, while Randolph adds that Thomas prepares exceptional dishes every year for this occasion, which makes Kanghyun even more curious about the festival. When they finally reach their destination, they meet Lord Roventus, who looks unusually cheerful upon seeing Kanghyun. Randolph explains that the Lord is happy because of Kanghyun's recent contributions to their culinary as well as economical landscape, and Roventus also thanks him for sharing his recipe. He then explains that the Welk dishes, especially the soup as well as somyeong, are now being sold in taverns across the territory, gaining popularity in other regions as well, while bringing visitors and life back to the kingdom. He adds that Kanghyun's contribution has helped the three races work together, earning him great recognition. Kanghyun feels surprised hearing this, as he never thought of his actions in such a big way, so when the Lord offers to grant him any wish as a reward, he hesitates and tries to refuse. However, Roventus insists and explains that refusing would make it seem like he is undervaluing his own contribution, so after thinking for a moment, he comes up with an idea. Kanghyun asks the Lord if it would be possible to arrange a meal where all three races can gather together on Winter Grandfather's Day. He starts explaining that since the festival is about sharing food with people one is grateful to, he wants to dine with everyone who has supported him. He also mentions that he is curious about the traditional dishes prepared on this occasion, especially the ingredients and their cooking methods. He then further adds that he has heard about Thomas, who is particularly skilled in preparing such meals, especially meat dishes, so he wants to taste it with everyone. Hearing his request, the Lord agrees and then turns to Randolph to ask if the other races also celebrate this festival, to which Randolph replies that since the story is widely known, it is likely that they are also familiar with it. Satisfied with the answer, Roventus agrees to arrange a grand gathering where everyone can come together, and Randolph feels surprised at how easily the request was accepted. Kanghyun feels genuinely happy about this. while Roventus mentions that it has been a long time since he celebrated this festival himself, and he feels that this year will be especially enjoyable. Soon after, preparations begin, and invitations for the gathering start spreading across the territory, reaching the other two races as well. The day of the festival finally arrives, and all three races gather for the grand feast, arriving one after another and thanking the human lord for the invitation. While Roventus welcomes them warmly with his attendants, Kanghyuk excitedly looks around, pleased to see everyone together like this. Cassandra, despite trusting Kanghyuk, feels slightly puzzled by the sudden invitation and wonders if this gathering is truly just for a peaceful meal, while at the same time, Roventus himself feels a bit uncertain as he had not expected even the elder of the elves to attend. He briefly wonders if such a meeting should have been handled as a formal negotiation, and the elf elder remains observant too. On the other side, Haman and Emily observe everything silently, with Haman feeling overwhelmed just by the presence of the other races, while Emily notices that although everyone is smiling politely, they are still watching each other carefully, as if unsure of each other's intentions. Kanghyuk quickly realizes that the atmosphere is still tense and it will not be easy for everyone to relax, so he decides to step forward and break the silence by introducing everyone as many of them are meeting each other for the first time. Seeing his effort, Roventus also steps in and introduces himself, not as a ruler but simply as Kanghyuk's friend who has come to share a meal. He then clearly states that there are no hidden motives behind this gathering, and it is only meant for enjoying food together. His actions slowly ease the tension, allowing Cassandra to feel more at home. She decides to join in the celebration while exclaiming that elders should help make the atmosphere comfortable so the younger ones can enjoy themselves. Roventus agrees with her, and together the three leaders decide to begin the party by serving drinks first. Gradually, small groups begin to form as Haman approaches Aura and awkwardly introduces herself, while Randolph greets Emily and Noah and brings along his young daughter Hina, who shyly hides behind him. Nearby, Thomas starts talking with the elf chef Kanpung, and both of them discuss recipes and cooking methods with great interest. At the same time, the bishop watches everything with dissatisfaction dripping from his face as he had not expected things to turn out this way, and seeing everyone laughing together irritates him. Rice Cake and Tori notice his reaction, so they let out a small scoff, as if judging him, which only makes him more annoyed. Soon, the Lord makes an announcement, explaining that the gathering is to celebrate Winter Grandfather's Day, a festival he prepared together with Kanghyuk. Mona looks confused, so she turns to Cassandra for an explanation, and Cassandra casually tells her that it is an old story where finding a man dressed in blue leads to receiving treasure. Noah listens with disbelief, finding the explanation absurd, but Mona takes it seriously and becomes very excited, thinking that the treasure must be related to food. Roventus then presents the first dish, explaining that it represents a part of human culture, and signals Thomas, who steps forward and lifts the lid to reveal the dish. Thomas then proudly announces that the dish is called porcha, a meal traditionally shared during Winter Grandfather's Day. At that moment, Kanghyuk quickly moves closer to see the dish that Thomas is known for making so well, taking him by surprise. Thomas explains that porcha is prepared differently in each household, usually using chicken cooked in wine, while emphasizing that his strength lies in selecting the right ingredients and balancing the sauce perfectly. As Kanghyuk observes the dish, he notices that its use of wine and appearance are similar to a French dish called coq au vin. Out of curiosity, he serves himself a portion and tastes it carefully, realizing that this version is lighter and fresher compared to the heavier French stew, most likely because of differences in cooking methods. Instead of feeling oily or too rich, the dish has a clean acidity, while the meat is tender enough to melt in the mouth, creating a balanced and satisfying taste. Soon, everyone begins tasting the dish, and the mood slowly changes as they start enjoying the food together, with Roventus encouraging them to eat freely while assuring everyone that there is plenty of food for all. After some time, Cassandra raises her hand and declares that although they have come here as guests, they do not wish to simply sit and be served. At her signal, her team brings forward a large piece of meat, which she introduces as the tail of a king drake from the Scale Mountains, explaining that it is a special dish usually prepared by the beast folk on important occasions. While the elf elder listens quietly at first, he also presents dishes prepared by his group as well soon enough. Seeing everyone contributing to the food reserve, Reventus turns to Kanghyuk and asks if he has prepared anything, since he is usually known for his unique dishes. Kanghyuk replies with a slightly embarrassed smile that he has not made anything this time, as he believes that sharing a meal together like this has more meaning on its own. As the gathering continues, the three races begin to enjoy not only the food, but also each other's company, and the celebration slowly becomes more lively. Kanghyuk looks around and feels satisfied on seeing everyone coming together like this, even if only for a short time. But in the middle of this joyful atmosphere, the bishop still watches them with a dark expression, thinking of a way to disrupt everything. Meanwhile, Thomas, who is busy serving food, suddenly notices that the porcha in the main vessel has run out, so he moves ahead to bring more from the reserve he had prepared earlier. But as he reaches the container, his expression suddenly changes when he realizes that it is already completely empty. Kanghyuk quickly notices that something is wrong and approaches him, only to learn that the entire reserve prepared for the feast has disappeared. Thomas begins to panic, not knowing what to do, because even though they had prepared a large quantity for the event, it has somehow disappeared entirely. At first, Kanghyuk briefly suspects rice cake might have eaten it all since he is still eating from his bowl, but he also wonders if Thomas has brought the wrong vessel along by mistake. Meanwhile, the bishop watches everything with quiet satisfaction, as he is the one who secretly swapped the pot beforehand, and he feels pleased thinking that the chef will now be embarrassed in front of everyone for failing to provide enough food, and that will ruin the entire gathering. At that moment, Kanpung and Haman arrive and ask if something is wrong, and Kanghyuk explains the situation to them. Haman initially tells them that it should not be a problem, since they have also brought a large amount of meat, but after noticing that the meat is also being consumed rapidly by the guests, she starts worrying. Thomas blames himself for not checking everything properly before the event, but Kanghyuk steps in calmly and asks him not to worry. He then tells him that most of the ingredients can still be found in the nearby forest, and even offers to use his own spices for the missing elements. Kanghyuk then points out that they still have enough wine to prepare the dish again, and for the meat he suggests using timseh birds, as their flavor is suitable for the recipe. He then proposes working together with everyone to prepare enough fresh portions quickly. Haman immediately agrees, and Kanpung confidently claims that if everyone helps, they can easily prepare even hundreds of servings. Soon Noah, Randolph, and Emily also step forward, asking to help with the work. Seeing everyone coming together like this moves Thomas deeply, and his eyes get filled with tears. Kanghyuk quickly takes charge and begins assigning tasks to everyone, asking Noah and Randolph to catch birds with firm muscle suitable for the dish, while instructing the elves to gather vegetables and herbs, especially younger leaves and firm roots. He then starts telling the chefs to adjust the recipe together, so everything runs smoothly, which even makes the elders surprised at how naturally everyone has started cooperating. As Randolph and Noah spot a large bird, they both rush after it and turn the task into a friendly competition. But after catching it, they start arguing about who deserves the credit. Their attention quickly shifts when they notice Rice Cake trying to sneak away with the catch, but as soon as Kanghyuk's name is mentioned, the wolf pup reluctantly backs off and leaves the bird behind. Elsewhere, Emily and Aura are gathering herbs, but Aura feels slightly uncomfortable because Hina has followed them and keeps staring at her with curiosity. Emily explains that Hina is simply curious about her, but Aura is unsure how to react since she is not used to dealing with children. Hannah, on the other hand, is completely fascinated by Aura's magic, unaware that Aura also has a spirit companion that is usually invisible to humans. Noticing her interest, Aura decides to ease the situation by creating small, blooming flowers in the air using her magic. Soon, everyone returns with the ingredients they have gathered, and Kanghyuk notices a sense of satisfaction on their faces. So, without wasting time, he gathers everyone and begins the cooking process. Haemin starts preparing the meat by trimming it carefully and cutting it against the grain to break down the muscle fibers, while also adding pepper as well as fruit acids to remove any odor. At the same time, the other chefs prepare the vegetables and begin rendering fat in a cast iron pot, and once it is ready, the meat is seared in the hot fat before the stir-fried vegetables are added. Afterwards, a generous amount of wine is poured into the pot so the meat can cook slowly as the flavors combine. And when the wine reduces to about half, Kanghyuk borrows Tori's special heat ability to increase the temperature, speeding up the cooking process without losing flavor. Soon, the dish is ready, and a rich aroma spreads throughout the area, while Thomas keeps watching in amazement, unable to understand how Kanghyuk managed to prepare the dish so quickly when it had taken him an entire day. Mona is the first to line up with her bowl, her mouth already watering, and Haemin explains that this is how the beast folk usually line up for food. Kanghyuk notices that Haena has also joined the line beside Mona, and gradually everyone starts gathering to receive their share. As Kanpung tastes the dish, she immediately exclaims with joy that the recipe is delicious, while Hannah keeps eating happily, and Randolph quietly thinks about his wife, wishing she could have been there to share the moment. As everyone enjoys the meal together, the bishop watches from a distance and grows increasingly frustrated as his plan has failed completely. He had never wanted the gathering to succeed, so seeing everyone become closer because of what he did irritates him further. Just then, Cassandra calls out to him to ask if he will not join them, but he refuses sharply and walks away in rage. Meanwhile, the elder elf watches the scene with a gentle smile on his face and remarks that gatherings like this are not so bad after all. The other leaders nod in agreement as they observe the younger ones enjoying themselves freely while sharing food and laughter without any hesitation. Soon, everyone prepares to return to their home, but before that, Kanghyuk has one last surprise to make the day memorable. He tells everyone that before they go, he has one last thing to give them all. He hands over a neatly wrapped package to the leaders of the three factions, and Cassandra immediately starts sniffing it to figure out what is inside. Roventus, on the other hand, directly asks Kanghyuk what is inside the package. Kanghyuk replies with a smile on his face that it is called stolen, which is a bread made from dried fruits or nuts soaked in rum and spices. He recalls his conversation with his sister, who kept yapping about the details of the recipe and how the dry fruits and nuts taste best when they are soaked for months. However, since they were short on time, Kanghyuk reduced that time by 99% and soaked the nuts for just a day. Kanghyuk can't tell everyone that he borrowed help from his sister to make this, but he is proud that he could do that. He tells the leaders of the three species that where he comes from, people slice off one piece of the stolen each day while waiting for a special occasion. He then adds that it might be too late for following that tradition, because the special occasion was today. Kanghyuk says that he thought it was a good idea to bring this special bread for everyone today so that they can eat one slice each day to remember this special event. Not to mention, occasions where all three species gather together come so often. Cassandra laughs, saying that if that is the case, they can't eat it all in one bite. The elf elder is really moved by the gift and the idea behind it, saying that it is really meaningful. He decides to offer a small gift to Kanghyuk in return and start using his magic. A pink mist is released from the elf elder's hand, and then flowers and butterflies start flying out. Kanghyuk is really mesmerized by this scene, and then the elf elder tells him that the rose he gifted him the other day finally bloomed. The rose flowers spread in the air, and everyone starts enjoying the scenery. The elf elder remarks that the rose was so beautiful that he wanted to share it with everyone, so he brought it along with him. As Kanghyuk holds a rose in his hands, he gets nostalgic, thinking about how much the seed he gifted the elf elder has grown since that day. The elf elder thanks Kanghyuk for giving him the chance to grow such a beautiful flower and showing him such a beautiful sight. He looks at the children chasing butterflies that are flying after the rose petals in the air, and then remarks that he will remember this for a long, long time. Soon, the night comes, and in the Beastman village, everyone is sound asleep. Well, everyone except Mona, who is too excited from the events of the day to even take a nap. She keeps staring at the ribbon used to tie the stolen package while her mother sleeps next to her. Mona recalls how Cassandra earlier told her about the human festival in which if you hunt a man dressed in blue, treasure would drop. Well, she's not gotten over that idea yet, and she begins thinking that if she can dress the blue version of Santa Claus, he will accept defeat and give her a bunch of delicious meat. A mischievous grin spreads on her face as she starts thinking of making this dream come true and then happily starts sneaking out of bed. Unfortunately for her, her mother is the chieftain of the beast folk, and her senses are sharper than a razor. She immediately grabs Mona's head and tells her to go back to sleep, leaving the girl shivering and terrified. The next day, Mona rekindles her ambitions of hunting the old man in blue, but first she looks around to confirm that her mother is not around. Once she is certain that Cassandra can't stop her this time, she starts dreaming about catching the Smurf Santa Claus. But unfortunately, her mother notices this too. As Mona runs off to the forest to catch the Winter Elder, Cassandra watches over her with Noah, who asks her what they should do now. Cassandra finds her daughter's innocence cute and says that they should let her preserve her childlike innocence and curiosity. She immediately tells Noah to get ready for a special mission, and even though he is shocked on hearing what she wants him to do, he can't refuse his chieftain. At the same time, Aura is in the forest as well, munching on snacks with her spirit bird Sophie while wondering about her next step. She feels that she has ended up staying in the forest for longer than she expected, and that she should head to her next destination as soon as possible. She recalls how she has crossed a scorching desert and a freezing glacier. Both of them were harsh and beautiful in their own way, but despite that, she doesn't feel satisfied with her journey. She wants to complete her journey and return home, but then her sister's words echo in her mind, telling her that the journey has no set end, so she shouldn't rush that much. However, Aura has made up her mind, and until she can attain enlightenment, she has no plans to end her journey. She wants to be acknowledged like her sister and become a full-fledged ranger, but that dream looks a bit distant right now. Aura immediately snaps out of her desperate state of mind and tells Sophie that they should head to an extremely rugged mountain range for their next journey. Suddenly, she notices the cheerful Mona prancing on her way to find the Winter Elder, and she remembers her from the festival. Just then, Mona notices a blue tail peeking out from the bushes, and she thinks that this is her target. She immediately grabs the tail and pulls it out, but it is definitely not the Winter Elder, but a giant lizard. The lizard shrieks and pounces on her, and Mona freaks out. But luckily, Aura's body moves on her own, and she takes the girl out of danger in a flash. Even when they are far away from the lizard, they are terrified and disheveled, and Aura says that she thought that for a moment, she was going to be eaten by the blue lizard. Mona is too shocked to even realize what has happened, but she finally looks at Aura once she is calm enough. Even after that, Mona keeps looking for her target, leaving no stones unturned, quite literally. Aura is confused by this and asks her what she is looking for. Mona excitedly begins gesturing to her, but Aura is sure that not even her wise sister could understand this gibberish. Well, Mona starts drawing the Winter Elder on the ground to make things clear, but that makes them even worse. Aura thinks that Mona is drawing a troll and tells her that if she wants to see a troll, she needs to cross at least 2 mountain ranges. Mona gets angry on hearing this because it is an insult to her art and resumes her search. Aura begins wondering what it is that the beastfolk girl is looking for if not a troll. She then notices that Mona is staring at everything blue for a while, and she has the blue ribbon tied around her neck. The blue ribbon reminds Aura of the bread that Kanghyuk gave everyone on the Winter Elder Day, and with that, she arrives at the right answer. She asks Mona if she is looking for the Winter Elder, and the beast girl's eyes light up on hearing that. This brings another dilemma for Aura, because as a grown-up, she knows that Santa Claus doesn't exist, and neither does the Winter Elder. She begins wondering if she should tell Mona the truth or not, but on seeing her laughing proudly, she realizes that it won't work. Aura gets up, deciding to go back home because earlier she was planning to watch over Mona until she gave up and returned home. But at this rate, it doesn't seem possible. Aura doesn't want to waste her entire day babysitting her, so she gets ready to return to her village when suddenly she sees Mona approaching a blue flower. Aura freaks out on seeing this because she knows that it is a poisonous flower, and she tells Mona not to touch it. She leaps ahead as the flower spews its acid on Mona and realizes that she can't leave this girl here on her own. At the same time, in the deeper parts of the forest, the creatures are shocked and terrified of something giant and blue. Turns out the Winter Elder was not a myth after all, or is he? He walks through the forest, dressed in blue and carrying a big bundle, with his beard masking his entire face. The forest creatures are terrified of him, and the reason for that is his eyes that stare into the distance with burning passion as they wait for Mona to come to him so that he can finish his mission and go back to being Noah. Mona is a little too desperate to find the Winter Grandfather as she keeps looking around the forest to search for him, while the other forest creatures are staring at her in confusion. It is their first time seeing a weird creature looking for some other creature. Aura is standing behind Mona and is concerned for her safety as she has already landed herself in trouble before. Since she knows well that Mona is not aware of the magical creatures of this forest, she doesn't find it safe to leave Mona on her own, which is why she stays nearby. Aura alerts Mona not to go much deeper into the forest and tells her not to hurt herself before meeting Winter Grandpa. Meanwhile, Mona keeps staring at the little bunny-like creatures while the poor ones keep watching her in fear. Aura knows that even though the Winter Grandpa doesn't even exist in the first place, as it is just a story to entertain little children, she still cannot let Mona's hopes die in vain. So she proposes to Mona to return back to her village, as it would be better in her opinion to ask the elders once again about the story. But Mona pays no attention to her words as she suddenly notices something and starts running in that direction. Aura panics once again and has no choice but to run behind Mona because Mona has already gotten herself into much trouble before. As the duo keep walking ahead, Mona keeps searching intently for the old blue man everywhere. They walk through the thick grasslands and even search the cliff for him, with Mona hoping that maybe the Winter Grandpa might be hiding somewhere nearby. Aura helps her search by climbing into the tree and looking around, while Mona keeps facing difficulty in doing the same. She still clings to the branches, refusing to lose hope, and keeps searching around. Soon, they walk into the forest again, and Mona looks among the flowers and plucks a blue flower with the hope that it might end her search. She presents one to Aura and puts another one into her hair while chiming through the forest. Meanwhile, Noah, who is also following them on the command of the chief, keeps looking secretly from behind the tree. A little later, the two girls face a giant blue insect who was minding its own business when Mona disturbed its privacy. So the two of them have no choice but to run for their lives. Soon enough, Mona sees a cave and starts looking in, but her luck is as terrible as before, and they have to face the wrath of a squirrel this time. Still, Mona doesn't give up and starts searching under the water for the Winter Grandpa, catching a blue fish but letting it go on Aura's command, who tells her to throw it back if she is not going to eat it. Aura seems fed up with the search operation, and she keeps walking with Mona, who is now running behind a blue butterfly. Soon, Mona notices a huge green valley above which the deep blue sky is visible from behind the clouds. She points her finger in the direction of the sky as if she wants to go there this time. She then sits down on the grass to rest. Aura, too, sits beside her and advises her to stop catching blue things since just because something is blue doesn't make it Winter Grandpa. Around them is a huge flock of sheep resting in the tree's shade, which looks like blocks of cotton growing in the green grass. Aura tells Mona that at least she should be looking for an intelligent being that can wear blue clothes, and if she keeps searching like this, she won't find the Winter Grandpa even in 10 years. Mona seems busy in her own world, and Aura knows that she should not advise something like that to Mona, because that is just replacing one delusion with another. Aura lets out a sigh and decides to leave for her journey, but then she looks at Mona again and asks if she isn't tired of searching aimlessly without even knowing where the Winter Grandpa is. Aura says that if she were in her place, she would have been exhausted by now. To her surprise, Mona excitedly hands her a rice cake, which she has brought in her bag. The rice cake is already covered in a nori sheet, and Aura asks if she is really giving it to her, as Mona is usually known to steal food. Mona affirms, and Aura doesn't know what that food item is, as she has never tasted it before. Holding the rice cake in her hands, she wonders if Heyman made this. Inside of her head, Heyman seems to be happily agreeing while mentioning that this recipe was given to her by Kanghyuk, who asked her to wrap the rice cake like this as it keeps the moisture inside. Wondering if it is edible, Aura takes her first bite while thanking Mona but soon starts enjoying the rice cake. She notices that the sheet in which the rice cake is wrapped is crispy and also helps in keeping the flavor inside intact. Aura recalls that when she was traveling, she only cared about efficiency, so she always carried tasteless preserved food with her. This time, she decides to try making food items like this for her next journey. Beside her, Mona keeps munching on her share happily without many worries. Around them, a cool breeze is blowing, and the grass is dancing with every gust of wind. Aura keeps eating her food silently while enjoying the scenery, and above one of the sheep lies Sophie, carefree in its deep sleep. The sheep are grazing here and there, and in front of Aura lie a beautiful valley and high mountains surrounding them. As Aura starts wondering, she realizes that she has never actually sat down like this and calmly looked around while traveling. She thinks about the times when she was traveling to a desert with the scorching sun above her head. Still, she paid no attention to the vast orange sand dunes around her and kept walking to the places her sister had once traveled. Her sight never left the map her sister Emily had given her, and when they reached the North Pole, she never even stopped to admire the northern lights around her and kept walking to cover the distance. She had always been in a hurry to cross areas and cover as much distance as she could without even bothering about what she was missing. Aura has always been in a hurry, and even though her sister had told her not to rush like that, as the journey had no set end, she never stopped to see the things around her. But this time, looking around, Aura finally realizes what she has been missing so far. Mona gets up and stretches herself a little, making Aura question if she is going to look for the grandpa again. But before Aura can tell her that she would come with her, Mona starts running again. After giving the view before her a final look, Aura also starts running behind Mona, asking her not to rush like that. It seems like there has been too much chaos in the forest during the search for the winter grandpa, and even the birds look tired of it. Soon, Noah appears in front of Mona, dressed like the winter grandpa. He is wearing a blue furry jacket along with a blue cap, exactly what the winter grandpa is said to be wearing. Along with that, his long gray beard is clearly hiding his face. Aura is suspicious and makes a weird face when Noah introduces himself as the winter grandpa to Mona, who keeps staring at him strangely. Aura knows well who this man is, and in her mind, she tells him not to lie, as his acting is poor and it's quite obvious who he is. However, the acting is good enough to fool the little Mona, who seems to be in high spirits as she keeps eyeing the bag Noah is carrying with him. To hide his smell, he has even applied a smelly fruit all over his body and is stinking because of that. Noah praises Mona for finding him so easily and calls her a capable warrior, while Aura knows well that it was actually Noah who was following them all along and has knowingly exposed himself in front of them. She wants him to at least put some effort into the disguise, as he is plainly just reciting his dialogues without giving any life to the character. Aura feels like Noah is just underestimating Mona just because she is a kid. Meanwhile, Mona just keeps standing silently while watching her winter grandpa, and after a while, she starts jumping excitedly and starts pointing at him, as if telling Aura that she has finally found the old man at last. Aura is stunned into silence to see Mona being convinced so easily and wonders if it was really so simple to convince her. Aura silently keeps staring at Mona and questions herself if that was really a believable enough act for a winter grandpa. Meanwhile, Mona keeps dancing with joy in front of Noah and starts demanding her gift for finding him. Noah already knows what Mona has wanted from the start, so he takes out his bag and reveals a huge chunk of meat from inside it, which he hands over to Mona, who is too excited to receive her much-desired gift. Mona hugs it tightly and starts dancing again in excitement while showing off her gift to everyone. Aura smiles on seeing Mona so happy and then congratulates her on finally finding the winter grandpa. Soon it is evening and the sun starts going below the horizon. The sky starts turning orange and Noah, who is still disguised as the winter grandpa, volunteers to take Mona home with him. Mona bids farewell to Aura happily before leaving, with her gift firmly packed in her bag. Aura sees them off and smiles as she keeps staring at the two who are leaving for their home. Sophie is also smiling at them, and there is a sense of satisfaction on Aura's face. As the day ends, Aura decides to continue her journey, and Sophie affirms the idea by making a screeching sound. The original idea of Aura was to cross 6 mountain ranges by today, but since their day was already filled with another adventure, she decides to complete the journey quickly in the remaining time, and as she reveals that it is going to be a forced march, Sophie silently makes a face. But before leaving, Aura confesses that this kind of journey she had today with Mona was more fun than she had expected it to be. She then asks Sophie if they should go to the sea next time, as she has heard that the endless horizon is incredibly beautiful. Sophie agrees to it, and together they set on their next journey towards the direction of the setting sun. On the other hand, it seems like a fine day in the human world, where Kanghyuk is busy preparing for the day, while Rice Cake and Tori are leisurely lying on the floor when a noise comes from outside, and the two start staring toward the door. Kanghyuk comes out with a broom and bucket in his hand, knowing well who it might be, and Rice Cake and Tori seem equally excited to welcome the visitor into their house. Outside, a car has just stopped near their door, and soon Hwang Daegil happily enters the restaurant with his production house team. Kanghyuk is already present there with his pets to welcome his guests, and Hwang asks him to take care of the rest now, as it is finally the filming day for Mr. Hwang's program. Although Kanghyuk keeps smiling, deep in his heart he seems nervous, knowing that even though he did accept the filming proposal, right now the situation is somewhat embarrassing for him as there are neither any customers nor does he have any signature menu. He confesses the same to Hwang and tells him that he doesn't know what to show him. But Hwang seems to be in high spirits, and he advises him to just film comfortably without any worries. Further, he tells him that he is going to order carbonara as they have discussed beforehand, and for the upcoming shooting, he has decided that they will just chat comfortably while eating. The other person who is accompanying Hwang for the day is producer Jo, along with a cameraman. Jo introduces herself and excitedly tells Kanghyuk that she agrees with Hwang's idea. She says that he just has to let them shoot and worry about nothing else. Seeing her enthusiasm, Hwang points out that the producer seems to be especially motivated for the day, which she herself agrees with, adding that she has heard a lot of good things about working with the famous chef Kanghyuk from her co-producer. She mentions that Kanghyuk is already creating a strong buzz even after being absent from the television industry for a long time. Everyone knows how rare it is to see and work with Kanghyuk these days, and Jo finds herself lucky to be personally shooting with the star chef. She thanks Hwang for giving her the opportunity, while explaining that she had already heard a lot of amazing stories beforehand. With clear enthusiasm, producer Jo even proposes a title for their show, naming it A Cool-Headed Man, Chef Kanghyuk's Countryside Life. Meanwhile, Kanghyuk keeps staring at her in embarrassment, and Hwang does the same in confusion, wondering how great those stories must have been for the producer to react like that. Later, Hwang proposes going around and filming the village along with taking some interviews while Kanghyuk and the rest of the crew prepare for the set at his restaurant. Kanghyuk gets shocked as soon as he hears the idea, and he asks Hwang if he is serious about it. Hwang confirms that and questions him about his reaction, not knowing the real reason behind his awkwardness in meeting the villagers. Even though Kanghyuk couldn't say anything further, he still mentions that Hwang should not go around the village hall, making him even more confused. But soon, Hwang understands why Kanghyuk was so awkward about it when he sees the banner mentioning Kanghyuk as Yongpyong Village's pride, along with many other praises written on it. Producer Joe, as well as the cameraman, starts filming that banner while Hwang somehow tries to control his laughter. Producer Joe wonders why the banner is branding Kanghyuk like that when he doesn't even belong to this place, and Hwang apologizes to Kanghyuk in his mind, imagining his reaction. After that, Joe notices the village hall, and in order to find out more about Kanghyuk, she decides to step in. She wants to know how the villagers are treating Kanghyuk, as she expects him to stand out in this place since he is so famous. As Joe enters the place, she finds two villagers sitting with the village head inside the hall, all three preparing fresh spinach they have harvested from their fields. She tells them that she wants to have a quick interview with them while introducing herself, and then starts asking questions about the star chef residing in their village. The villagers agree to talk, and soon the crew joins them as well in preparing the harvested spinach. While Hwang and the village head, who know each other, start having a chat, Joe finds herself doing the same, wondering why she is involved in the process. Hwang then asks the chief if he remembers the time when Kanghyuk first came to the village. The village chief agrees and explains how he was unaware that Kanghyuk was a famous chef back then. He says he used to think he was just a short-sighted young man when he saw him opening a restaurant in such a remote place. Both Hwang Dae-gil and producer Joe agree with the remark and nod their heads. The other villager mentions how the village chief was kind to the young man at that time and treated him well. The village chief agrees and adds that it is because of Kanghyuk that their health has started getting better nowadays. Producer Joe asks if he must have helped Kanghyuk a lot in adapting, and then mentions the banner she saw outside, stating that Kanghyuk seems to be very loved in this village. The village head smiles and explains that helping him was natural, but earning love like that was something Kanghyuk did himself. Producer Joe gets stunned at his reply, as it contrasts what she had heard about Kanghyuk earlier. The village head then hands over some fresh batches of spinach to Hwang, and as soon as they head out, they meet Sujin and her husband, so they ask her the same questions. Sujin is holding her baby in her arms, and she tells them that Kanghyuk makes specialized dishes for the customers according to their preferences. Her answers take the crew by surprise, so she further explains how Kanghyuk made tonkatsu at her husband's request when she was pregnant with her child. She tells them that, at that time, they didn't know that he was a famous star chef, and they only found out later, leaving them surprised. Her husband, who at first was feeling shy in front of the camera, steps in and tells them that even after that, Kanghyuk would occasionally cook for them, for which they feel grateful to him. Meanwhile, Hwang keeps wondering about tonkatsu, which is a traditional Korean recipe, and it is worth noting that the dish is being prepared at an Italian restaurant. Joe is also confused as she hears that, and Hwang thanks the couple for the interview. Suddenly, he notices the kids who are especially dressed in their best clothes for the interview. They even propose being interviewed, claiming that they can give their best if given a chance, and the crew starts filming them. The next station is Grandma Park's home, where she is asked about the restaurant's signature dish. With her usual stone-faced reaction, she asks Hwang if there is even any signature recipe at Kanghyuk's restaurant, mentioning that he makes whatever he is asked to. Hwang agrees with her statement, further stating that too much freedom might make it hard for customers to choose from the list, which is why nobody is able to answer the same question, as they have different preferences. Grandma Park then tells them more about Kanghyuk, that if one doesn't know what to order, he just gives something himself, and she finds him so meddlesome because he cannot ignore customers who can't eat like her. Hwang smiles at her remark and states that it seems like she enjoyed his cooking, and Grandma agrees in her usual poker face mode. She then tells him about the incident when Kanghyuk tried hard to suit her taste and made a dish especially for her nostalgic memories using vegetables, and also that she finds the vegetable dishes he cooks very good. This is something new that Hwang has learned about Kanghyuk, and he is quite impressed. The crew then heads ahead, and Joe remarks that everybody in the village is busy praising Kanghyuk, which she never expected would happen. She wonders if he bribed them with rice cakes to make them speak like that. The cameraman also mentions that Kanghyuk here seems more relaxed and softer than he appears on television. Producer Joe wants something even more raw and unfiltered about Kanghyuk, as she believes that everyone might be so camera conscious that they speak about nothing other than praising him. Hearing that, Huang stops walking and asks her if she really thinks like that. Joe gets surprised at such a sudden reaction, while Huang smiles and asks them to come along to the restaurant where Kanghyun is already waiting for them. Back at the restaurant, Tori as well as Rice Cake are relaxing while one of the camera crew keeps filming them, and the other one is accompanying Kanghyun. Tori is busy flexing in front of the camera, while Rice Cake seems too lazy to pose. Kanghyun's face is already red with embarrassment when he learns that the crew has already seen the banner which he was afraid of showing them. Huang makes a teasing face as he asks him if that is what is bothering him the most, and inside his mind, Kanghyun is thankful that fortunately the team didn't come across his life-size cutout behind the village hall, which the village head has especially prepared to display at the village gate. Back then, as soon as Kanghyun saw that cutout, he immediately exiled it to the village hall storage, much to the head's dismay. Huang then points out that the villagers really adore him and tells him that they have said that they received a lot from him. Kanghyun smiles and denies that, stating that the situation is quite the opposite, as he is the one who always keeps receiving help from them. These contradictory statements confuse the producer even more, and Kanghyun keeps talking, stating that although it is quite embarrassing for him to confess, he wasn't really good at getting along with people earlier or enjoying things together. He further admits that soon after coming to the village, he joined the village feasts and played with the kids, and it was when he realized for the first time how fun it is to be with others. He reveals that he is the one who was helped and smiles, while confessing in his mind that the reason he accepted filming in this village was partly to promote it. The crew keeps filming Kanghyun as he talks, while Huang smiles at his statements, and Joe remarks that his relationship with the villagers doesn't seem like a one-sided love, but rather mutual respect. The other cameraman seems to be quite obsessed with the pets as he keeps filming them, and meanwhile, Huang gets ready to ask for his order. He then announces that it is time they should try the dish everyone praised, and Kanghyun nervously asks him to order whatever he feels like eating. Huang tells him to prepare something from the spinach he has received from the village head, as he has already heard that Kanghyun is good at making vegetable dishes. As Huang requests Kanghyun to prepare something out of it, Kanghyun gets confused, as he was expecting him to order carbonara, and now he doesn't know what to do next. Producer Joe is also confused by this sudden change because before leaving earlier, Hwang Daegul had asked Kanghyun to prepare carbonara for the show, so they planned their shoot according to it. Kanghyun keeps staring at Daegul with a confused expression, as he has no idea why Daegul suddenly changed his order. Handing over the spinach to Kanghyun, Daegul answers that although he did request Kanghyun to make carbonara for them earlier, now since someone in the village recommended his green vegetable dishes, he wants him to prepare something similar for them, as he just can't pass up the chance to try it. Meanwhile, Kanghyun keeps thinking that perhaps the person who recommended using wild greens in the menu to Daegul was Mrs. Park, because she was the one for whom he has cooked recipes using wild veggies. Daegul again repeats that he wants to try the recipe he has been making for the village and the kind of food villagers usually eat at his place. As Hwang Daegul notices Kanghyun standing there quietly without saying a word, he tells him that it seems like his sudden change of order has probably caught him completely off guard. Kanghyun finally takes the bag of spinach from him and agrees to the request. He then reassuringly asks Daegul to leave the rest to him before heading back into the kitchen. Inside the kitchen, Kanghyun finds himself in a dilemma once again as he stands still with his arms folded, thinking about what exactly he should cook, even though he has already agreed to Daegul's request. Around him, the entire crew is busy filming him and capturing his every move. Kanghyun knows that Daegul wants to eat the kind of food the villagers usually eat, and doing it with spinach would be easy, as the vegetable is commonly used in Italy too. The vegetable goes well with the Italian taste, but Kanghyun understands that it is not exactly what Daegul is looking for from him. The cameraman interrupts him and asks Kanghyun to prepare 2 batches separately, as one has to be filmed while the other one will get eaten. Kanghyun agrees and again thinks about the villagers, wondering what they would order if they came again to his restaurant. Suddenly, his mind gets flooded with the memories of Songhu, the village head, as well as every other member of the village who are like his family, and Kanghyun's face fills up with a smile. He quickly reaches to grab a bowl in which he first washes the spinach thoroughly and removes the excess water from it with the help of a sieve. After that, Kanghyun blends half of the spinach with minced garlic, pine nuts, and Parmigiano cheese as well as olive oil and makes a smooth pesto paste with it. He then spreads the finished spinach pesto over a tortilla and adds a few toppings like tomatoes, cheese, and shrimp to make a pizza, which he then puts into the oven to bake. Soon, a delicious aroma starts spreading throughout the restaurant while Rice Cake and Tori keep eagerly waiting outside the kitchen. Although they badly want to go back inside, they hold themselves back because entry into the kitchen is restricted for them until the shoot gets completed. Kanghyun then starts looking into his fridge for some new ingredients, and after finding a few, he takes out a pan in which he heats some olive oil and sautés minced garlic with a spoonful of dojang, a Korean fermented soybean paste. While frying, he makes sure that the paste doesn't burn, and then he adds some fresh cream to it, which he lets simmer gently. Kanghyun then adds lightly blanched spinach and cooked pasta noodles to the sauce to stir-fry it, and then he lowers the heat slightly and seasons it with salt and pepper. Next, he gives the final touch to the recipe by adding some grated Grana Padano cheese over it and brings it to the table, where Deagle is waiting patiently. He presents the shimmering spinach recipes as per his request, and Deagle notices that he has made pizza as well as pasta with the green vegetable. He doesn't find the idea much amusing, as the restaurant is an Italian restaurant after all, so it was supposed that Kanghyun would be making the Italian dishes. The cameraman is quite focused while filming the plates full of meals, unaware of the fact that behind them are the two thieves who are waiting for their turns to steal away the plate. As Deagle pulls out a slice of pizza from his plate, he notices that it has a light drizzle of honey in it, which feels a bit like gorgonzola, a pungent, creamy Italian cheese. As he puts the slice into his mouth, his eyes get wide with amusement as the fragrance of the spinach pesto starts spreading through his mouth. Deagle realizes that Kanghyun has preserved the natural flavors perfectly in the dish. He then tries a spoonful of pasta, which again amuses him because although it is a cream pasta, the flavor is much deeper than a normal one, and he immediately realizes that Kanghyun has used doenjang in it, which, along with garlic, wraps around the richness of the cream. Beneath the smooth, nutty sauce, Deagle can taste the subtle sweetness of the spinach, and he finds the dish extremely delicious and one that can be enjoyed by adults as well as children. He praises Kanghyun for balancing the flavors so well in the recipe, and Kanghyun smiles, glad that he managed to make it according to Deagle's taste. Deagle then asks him if he intentionally used familiar ingredients with spinach, as he knows it well that there are numerous Western dishes that use spinach too. Kanghyun confirms it while stating that the people at the village are not very familiar with authentic Italian cuisine, and he just wanted everyone to enjoy his cooking without finding it too difficult. He then confesses to Deagle that it was why he decided to use a fusion of local and foreign ingredients to create a taste that appears familiar in an unfamiliar dish. Director Joe is still confused about why Kanghyun opened an Italian restaurant in the village, knowing that the villagers know nothing about Italian food, while the cameraman keeps staring at the dish with a watering mouth because he wants to taste it as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Deagle is satisfied with Kanghyun's answers and tells him that he has expected the village's beloved superstar to be on another level, which makes the chef's face red in embarrassment. He wants to ask Deagle if he is teasing him while he keeps thinking about the village head's remark, who earlier had stated that the villagers like Kanghyun because they recognize his consideration for them. Looking at Kanghyun's flushed face, Deagle hopes that the broadcast really shows how much he has changed after coming to the village. Back in the kitchen, the poor cameraman keeps searching for his share of pasta, which has already been finished by Rice Cake and Tori. Suddenly, two voices start coming from outside of the restaurant, and as the producer looks behind to see who it is, they turn out to be Gi-hoon and Hwan. They don't know what's going on in the restaurant, and are surprised to see so many customers inside the restaurant. Gi-hoon tells Hwan that he should have read the banner outside, which mentioned the filming going on inside the restaurant. Kanghyun quickly rushes to them, surprised to see them there at such a busy hour. He informs them that filming is currently going on. However, the two have no intention of leaving, so they walk straight into the hall, claiming that they came to eat his food. Producer Joe, who is still not aware of their real identities, mentions that the two visitors look alike for the famous painter Gi-hun and the famous pianist Jeng Hwan Lee. Hwan tells her that it really is them, but the producer still cannot believe it. She jokingly says that just because they are filming at a famous star chef's restaurant doesn't mean that two huge celebrities would actually be regular visitors in a small remote village like this. The cameraman completely ignores her and keeps filming while the two casually start giving their menu preferences to Kanghyun without caring much about the shoot. A moment later, Jo finally recognizes them and completely freaks out. She immediately starts telling the cameraman to film them as well, not realizing that her own shocked reaction is also being recorded. Somehow, after all the chaos, the shoot finally comes to an end. 1 month later, the whole village gathers at the village hall for the TV program, which is going to be broadcast on that day. Outside, on the rooftop of the hall, is a banner announcing the occasion in bold letters as watching Chef Lee Kang-hyun's TV appearance, and inside, Kang-hyun is hiding his face in embarrassment, while the village head, along with others, is cheering for him as the show starts airing. Sang-hoo is jumping in excitement and tells Kang-hyun that he too has done an interview for the broadcast and is going to be on it too. Even though Kang-hyun has never watched his own broadcast live before, this time he cannot escape the situation. He starts calming himself down, and even though the camera crew had already told him earlier that the editing reduced his screen time, which he finds a relief, Kang-hyun still can't fully relax and feels somehow nervous. The first scene shows Hwang Dae-gil introducing the Yongpyong village and calling it a place where the entire village has become fans of the star chef. He mentions Kang-hyun as his most cherished junior, and watching this scene starts making Kang-hyun nervous once again. As soon as he appears on the screen, the caption below praises him, and Kang-hyun starts getting embarrassed. Further, the effects as well as sounds used in his introduction make the moment cringe for him. And soon the village chief appears on the screen, who describes Kang-hyun as the greatest cosmic chef as well as the treasure of their village. The children too, being dressed fancily, especially for their interview in the show, call him their most handsome uncle, who cooks well and plays soccer with them. Kang-hyun's face starts getting pale, and he is horrified as the show keeps glorifying him, while behind him, the village chief is already recording the entire broadcast for a replay. Kang-hyun never expected the program to be completely focused on him, as he thought it was just a simple food travel show. To his surprise, he sees all his friends, including Gi-hun and Jong, constantly showering him with praise in their entire interview. They appear very excited on screen while filming for their dearest friend. As the show continues, Kang-hyun becomes more and more embarrassed by all the attention and praise he is receiving, so unable to handle it anymore. He quietly disappears from the scene. Soon after, everyone notices he is gone and starts looking for him. The show has interviewed each and every member of the village who knew Kang-hyun and is broadcasting their views about him. All of them have mentioned Kang-hyun as their savior who brings smiles to their faces. Even Grandma Park calls him a family member who doesn't need a reason to be liked, and so the villagers' heartfelt interviews keep going on. Back at his restaurant, Kang-hyun is sitting on a desk and is hiding his face in shame while hugging rice cake. He thinks that it was his mistake that he trusted the producers. The show even mentions that Kang-hyun will probably never watch the latter half of the broadcast in his life and will not know how much the entire community cherishes him. As expected, soon after the broadcast comes out, Kang-hyun's restaurant comes to life with new customers visiting every day, not only from the local area but also from the nearby cities. His restaurant gets incredibly busy, and Kang-hyun remains hooked up to his kitchen throughout the time while catering to these new customers. Since the restaurant remains full throughout, the villagers start taking turns to help Kang-hyun in his work, or else he would have been definitely overwhelmed by now. Meanwhile, Kang-hyun is busy handling orders and cooking new recipes for them, and his fans never forget to take selfies with him while trying his food. They are happy to finally meet the star chef, And Kanghyun is equally happy to see the restaurant going so well. But the most famous recipe, which is in demand among the customers, is the spinach carbonara that Kanghyun had made earlier for the broadcast. Everybody wants to taste it, and every day Kanghyun receives fresh orders for the same. The village chief also keeps an eye from outside the restaurant every day to make sure Kanghyun is doing well. Seeing the restaurant so full with customers and lines gathering outside Kanghyun's restaurant, the village chief starts smiling while thinking about the annoyed face of the neighborhood village's chief on seeing their Yongpyong village bustling so much. For the village head, it is also an opportunity to show off, especially to his rivals, as now his village has become quite famous. Soon, Mi-young and Song-hoo meet the village head outdoors, and he asks the kids if they have come to see the young chef. Song-hoo admits that and tells him that they want to take Kanghyun along with them for sledding, but on seeing the line gathering outside the restaurant, Song-hoo immediately realizes that his uncle is busy again today. Mi-young also agrees with him and advises him that it would be best for them to wait for their friends and play by themselves, as there are already so many customers, so it won't be possible for Kanghyun to accompany them. They decide to wait for Mi-ju and Cheolmin while the village head starts thinking about Kanghyun. Although he is happy that Kanghyun is finally busy, he starts worrying if the young chef is doing okay. Inside the kitchen, Kanghyun has no time to even think about himself, and he keeps doing his job to meet the orders of his customers. As the day concludes and night arrives, Kanghyun is finally resting in his bedroom with Tori and rice cake by his side. Although it's time for sleep, he is wide awake and has been thinking about his routine for the past few days. He admits to himself that it has been a long time since he was this busy, and compared to when he used to make food for an average of half a customer a day, this new growth feels almost unbelievable to him. Kanghyun knows it well that even the village head is happy with his success, as a lot more young people are now visiting their village, and he no longer needs to worry about a lack of customers. He closes his eyes for a few seconds but then immediately opens them with a realization that he is now not as stressed dealing with people as he used to be earlier in Seoul, and he even feels great to be able to cook to his heart's content again. He admits to himself that everything is going well for him, but soon he starts questioning himself about if this is really what he has wanted since the start. Kanghyun starts thinking about the real reason behind his decision to open a restaurant here in the village, but before he could think any further, Rice Cake brings his attention to himself. He seems exhausted, and he climbs up on Kanghyun's chest while sighing with tiredness. Kanghyun notices his as well as Tori's exhausted faces, and he starts smiling while asking them that even though he is the one who has been working non-stop, why do they look more tired than he does? Kanghyun starts petting them while the two start relaxing while receiving a massage from him, and he realizes that since his two pets have been stuck on the second floor, they might be feeling stuffy. He then asks them if they should go out for some fresh air for once the next day, as it will be his day off. Tori and Rice Cake have no objection to it, and the next day, Kanghyun is taking a walk around the village road with his pets walking beside him. Although it's a sunny day, the weather is still quite cold, and there is snow lying around everywhere. The kids, who are already present near a frozen lake with Minho, spot Kanghyun, and Sang-hoo calls out their names to invite them. Kanghyun waves back and walks towards them. He asks what they are doing there, and Sang-hoo, as well as Mi-young, comes rushing towards him. They tell him that they have planned to catch some fish, after which Sang-hoo excitedly asks Kanghyun if he also wants to come with them. Mi-young knows that Kanghyun hardly ever gets a day off since his restaurant became so successful, so she wants him to rest on his holiday and asks Sang-hoo to not force him to join them. Sang-hoo pauses for a moment after realizing that Kanghyun hardly gets a chance to rest like this, and he begins to hesitate about asking him to join them. Kanghyun quickly notices their expressions, so he curiously asks them why they are suddenly acting so strange around him. Sang-hoo innocently answers that he knows that Kanghyun is really busy all the time and hardly ever gets a day off. Mi-young further adds that her mother has told her that they shouldn't bother him much to play with them, as he must be tired already and he also might have to go to work. As Kanghyun hears their answers, It makes him think for a while, and he starts remembering his childhood days when he used to visit his grandfather during his vacation. At that time, one day when he was sitting near a fire altar with his grandfather, his grandpa had told him to come to that place whenever he wanted to rest. Realizing something suddenly, Kanghyuk replies to the children that he has taken a day off so that he can play with them without any worries. He asks the kids if they want to play with him, and the kids start jumping with joy. Sang-hoo suggests going fishing for smelts together, and Kanghyuk agrees. Soon the children start running in another direction to prepare for the fishing, while Minho comes to Kanghyuk and asks if he is really serious about playing with kids, because, in his opinion, since it is his day off, he should be resting. Kanghyuk smiles at his concern and asks him not to worry, as he actually wants to play with them. He then stares at the children who look happier and tells Minho that this is the real reason he came out there. The kids are in a hurry to bring an additional fishing rod for their beloved uncle, and Myong suggests taking Kanghyuk for sledding after that. While pulling out his ice auger to drill a hole through the thick layer of ice, Minho asks Kanghyuk if he has ever tried smelt fishing before. Kanghyuk replies that he hasn't, and it is his first time fishing. He then notices the tool Minho is carrying for drilling holes in the ice, so out of curiosity, he asks him about it. Minho explains that a thin layer of ice can usually be broken with a hammer and chisel. However, since the lake they are standing on has ice that is more than 20 centimeters thick, breaking it by hand would be very difficult, which is why they need to use the tool. He further explains that the layer on which they are standing has to be at least this thick to be safe, and after that, he starts drilling that auger into the lake. He scoops out a thick slice of ice, and a circular hole appears in the frozen surface of the lake. Both Rice Cake and Tori get fascinated by the process that they are inspired to. Tori starts making another hole into the surface using his heat, but it doesn't go as well as they had imagined, and Tori somehow saves himself from falling into the water by clenching the nearby walls of ice with both of his hands. Rice Cake sees him and saves him from falling into the icy cold water by dragging his friend out of the hole with the help of a stick. In the meantime, the children also return, and they start showing off the fishing rod they have brought for Kanghyuk. Kanghyuk holds the rod and starts looking at it with keen interest because it is his first time seeing one. Myong happily offers her help to put the bait on the rod because she knows that he has never tried fishing before. However, Kanghyuk rejects her help and states that he can at least put a worm on a hook. The children correct his mistake and tell him that the box of bait he is holding currently doesn't have worms but maggots in it. Knowing that Kanghyuk is completely inexperienced at fishing, the children once again offer to help him set up the bait. However, poor Kanghyuk no longer wants to embarrass himself by looking helpless in front of them. Finally, everybody sits down to catch the fish, and Sang-hoo tells Kanghyuk that he has to twitch the rod occasionally, like real bait for fish to catch them easily. Kanghyuk follows his orders, and soon his rod catches something. Kanghyuk gets surprised while an excited Sang-hoo asks him to pull back the fishing rod, which he does. Although it takes quite an effort on Kanghyuk's side, the result is not very satisfactory because he has caught only one small fish. He stares at his catch with doubt and wonders how it even managed to get caught, as the hook was also much bigger than its own mouth. Since the fish is of not much use, Sang-hoo asks him to throw it back into the water. Kanghyuk again puts his fishing hook into the water while holding the rod and keeps gazing intently into the hole to detect any new activity. Myong and Sang-hoo are also keeping an eye, reminding Kanghyuk to pull the rod instantly as soon as it starts moving. They notice that the fishes have taken the bait, and Sang-hoo, who seems very excited, tells Kanghyuk to pull back the fishing rod immediately as the rod has started to bend. Myong keeps cheering for Kanghyuk. Soon, he pulls out the rod. As the hook comes out of water, Kanghyuk is surprised to see not one but 5 fish being caught on his rod. He cannot believe that he has done that himself, but since kids have already started praising him for his skills, he cannot stop himself from showing off either. After a while, Minho calls the children as he has prepared some hot chocolate for them. The kids start running towards Minho to get their share, and Kanghyun again looks at his fish he just caught. He starts thinking again about the day when he came back to the village, and he questions himself about the real reason behind his decision. As he quietly watches Minho handing cups of hot chocolate to the children, thoughts of his grandfather slowly come back to his mind. He begins to understand why his grandfather wanted him to return to this place. Kanghyun grabs his cup of hot chocolate and makes a cozy face as soon as he starts sipping it. The warmth of the hot chocolate is enough to keep the cold weather away. Minho tells Kanghyun that he is thinking about cooking the smelts they have caught earlier and asks for his opinion. Kanghyun likes the idea, and he further suggests catching around 150 of them, which surprises Minho. He asks Kanghyun if they really need to catch that many fish, as he does not think they will be able to eat so much. However, Kanghyun thinks otherwise, and he explains that including the rice cake and the children, the amount is enough to feed everyone. After noticing Rice Cake staring greedily at the fish, Minho finally agrees that they will need a lot of food because there are many mouths to feed. In his mind, Rice Cake is imagining himself eating a full plate of smelt, so he quietly uses his magic while Minho and Kanghyun are busy talking. While Minho is busy telling Kanghyun that the place in which they are fishing is not suitable for catching a lot fish, and that it might even be impossible for them to carry out that task, Rice Cake quietly prepares a plan. Before Minho can finish speaking, a school of fishes suddenly jumps out of the waters through the hole they have made, and soon there is a pile of fishes scattered all around them. Kanghyun slowly turns around to see what has just happened, already knowing who could have done that. Minho is shocked to see so many fish jumping out of the lake all at once, but Kanghyun is not surprised at all. To stop Minho from becoming suspicious, Kanghyun quickly changes the topic to divert his attention. Minho keeps asking about this unusual phenomenon, while Kanghyun starts talking about the different recipes that could be made using those fish. Minho still cannot understand why the fishes jumped out like that, so he keeps asking the same question, but Kanghyun somehow successfully manages to distract him. Even so, Kanghyun is secretly freaking out while looking at the Rice Cake and Tori because he knows that they are the real culprits behind this incident. Although he knows about their abilities, he never expected that they would be able to get so many fish. Minho spreads out a mat and starts preparing the ingredients required for the dishes they have decided to make, while the children and the pets keep watching intently. At first, Minho seasons the fish by adding some salt, and as the smelts are being marinated, he also prepares a batter for them to coat them. He then heats up the oil and starts frying the seasoned smelts after dipping them into the batter. Golden bubbles start forming around the fish as Minho fries them perfectly until they become crispy and delicious. He smiles proudly and tells the children to eat as much as they want because there is more than enough food for all of them. At this point, Rice Cake is already drooling, and Sang-hoo suddenly notices that Kanghyun is missing, so he asks Minho about him. Minho explains that Kanghyun has gone home for a bit to bring something, and a little while later, Kanghyun finally returns while carrying a bag in his hands. He announces to everyone that since the catch is huge, in his opinion, it would be a waste to just fry it normally. He then tells everyone that he has brought a sauce he has made for the recipe, so they would be using it to make dory bang bang, a traditional Korean dish usually made from small freshwater fish like smelts or other small river fish. The children instantly become interested after hearing the name of the dish, and without wasting time, Kanghyun begins cooking. Firstly, he arranges the cleaned smelts in a circle on the pan, after which he roasts them slowly without oil over low heat to remove any excess moisture. When they are half cooked, Kanghyun pours in enough oil to submerge the fish and fries them over medium heat. After draining the excess oil, he brushes the prepared sauce evenly over the fish and roasts them again until the smelts become golden brown. Once they are done, Kanghyun decorates the smelts by filling the center with chives and extra sauce, and with that, the smelt dory bang bang is done. After the meals are prepared, they lay them over the picnic mat, where Rice Cake is already present to attack the meal anytime. Songhoo initiates first by placing the saucy smelts in perilla leaves, and as soon as he takes the first bite, the fish starts melting inside his mouth. His eyes begin to shine in excitement, and he starts admiring Kanghyuk for his recipe. Minho also tastes the dish and enjoys the sauce Kanghyuk has prepared. He tells Kanghyuk that the sweet and spicy taste of the sauce is so good that it is getting addictive. Kanghyuk is eating the regular fried version of the smelts, which he finds delicious, while beside him is Myeon, who is busy eating greedily even though the food is hot. Kanghyuk finds the fish extremely savory and comments that it has no fishy smell at all, which could be because the fish is freshly caught. Minho tells him that he would have loved a glass of drink besides the dishes, and Kanghyuk admits his desire for the same. Sanghoo and Myeong cannot relate to them because they are kids, and then the two men get an idea. They decide to come again with drinks and invite the village head as well as Sujin next time. Meanwhile, Rice Cake and Tori pay no attention to whatever is happening around them, as they are too engrossed in their own world while enjoying their food. Songhoo curiously asks Minho if the fishes really taste better with a drink, and if they can't enjoy it without any, to which Minho replies that although he may not find it tasty right now, he will find out once he gets older. Kanghyuk starts laughing after hearing this, while Myeong points out that Rice Cake is now eyeing their own food and is about to steal it. The atmosphere gets lively as the group are laughing and enjoying their day out while the sun keeps shining brightly over their heads. Kanghyuk looks up in the sky and smiles, and soon he gets up. He tells everyone that he is leaving first, which makes Songhoo sad, as he doesn't want to see him leaving so soon. Songhoo tries to stop him, but Kanghyuk tells him that he has to go, as there is suddenly some important business he has to take care of. The days pass without anything eventful happening, but 2 weeks later, Kanghyuk receives a call from his former boss, who is freaking out on the phone. He angrily asks Kanghyuk why he made a rule like that for his restaurant when his business has finally started doing well. His voice is so loud that Kanghyuk has to keep the phone away from his ears to stop his ears from aching. Kanghyuk has made a new rule for his restaurant, which states that it will open only 4 days a month, and only those customers who have a reservation will be allowed to dine in. He has made no such rules for the villagers, who are allowed to enter his restaurant whenever they want, which angers his former boss, and he makes a remark that even the Michelin-starred restaurants don't have such strict rules. He asks Kanghyuk why he is being so harsh on the outsiders and so lenient with the villagers who rarely come to eat at his restaurant. Rice Cake seems to be smiling while hearing Kanghyuk's decisions, whose former boss begs him to reconsider his decision, as the promotion through the broadcast was a huge success for his restaurant. He tells him that he could make a lot of profit if he took advantage of this opportunity, but before he could even finish his sentence, Kanghyuk interrupts him, stating that there is no need for him to do that, as he didn't join the show to make his restaurant famous. Putting the closed sign on the restaurant door, he informs his former boss that he has been planning to get a few days off from the hustle anyway and would be unreachable for a while. Kanghyuk tells him that he is disconnecting the call now, but the boss tries to convince him once again, so Kanghyuk has no choice but to abruptly hang up the call. He grabs his backpack and tells his little companions to prepare themselves for the journey. Soon he is riding his bicycle with Rice Cake and Tori sitting in the basket. The village looks calm, with smoke rising from the house chimneys and the birds sitting lazily on the rooftops. Kanghyuk and his pets enjoy the cool breeze as they ride towards their destination. Eventually, they arrive at the shed behind Grandpa's house, and this time, Kanghyuk decides to go on a relaxing trip, as it has been a long time since their last adventure. As Kanghyuk steps inside the shed to enter the spirit realm, he tells his friends to enjoy this weekend as much as they want because they have earned it. Rice Cake and Tori agree with his decision while they keep falling towards the other dimension. Kanghyuk is happy, and soon they reach the magical forest, where Kanghyuk sets up his camp again to start camping with his little friends. Back on Earth, the door of the shed starts glowing, and inside his grandparents' room, a strange disturbance suddenly occurs. An old photograph quietly slips out from one of the books kept on the shelves. While Kanghyuk is enjoying his healing time in the forest, he has no idea that his family line is connected to the spirit realm. The photograph reveals an elf standing beside a man who seems to be his grandfather. Perhaps that also explains why he connects so naturally with the spirits that remain invisible to other humans.